Good evening, and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, August 19th of 2014. Tonight, our agenda will be as follows. Approval of minutes dated August 5th, questions from the public regarding items not on the agenda, the Fitch bond rating review. We've got a National Grid public hearing involving Highview Drive. We've got the Farmers Market proclamation, presentation by the Recreation Commission and the Rec Department, a joint session with our Sewer Commission to interview candidates for the vacancy on the Sewer Commission, and that would be Robert Higgins, Tom Patch, and Kirk Schultz. Get a presentation on parking at the harbor. We'll have a middle school turf field update, and then we'll get into legal and lunchroom expenses, appointments, Selectmen town administrator reports, and then we're going into an executive session to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, and then 2 real estate negotiations with Boston Golf and Hingham Mutual. And that's the events for the evening. So welcome, everybody. And why don't we do the approval of the minutes? Has everybody read them?
Yep. I'll move that we approve the minutes of August 5th, 2014 as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Questions from the public?
Good evening. My name is John Hersey. I live at 65 Hersey Street. I lived in town for 67 years now as of next month, the 14th. And I've been keeping an eye on Union Street since it's been started. I got many pictures, over 30. And I've never seen a road built like that before in my life, and I'm disgusted. There's no crown to the road. There's a lot of hills and valleys. In my opinion, in this town, I don't believe it's going to work. We've received Chapter 90 funds for doing the road. It's a scenic road, and now we've ruined it for life because we put granite curbings up. And I don't understand that. I think that's wrong. Also, we seem to break the bylaw on doing the road, and we also violated the DEP rulings. I have pictures to prove it. We're supposed to have hay bales down. We're doing the area. I made a complaint yesterday. I asked her that it be shut down, but it wasn't done. They were working up there. It should have been shut down until the hay bales are in place. They were there after I made a complaint, and after a day or two, it was void. They just moved to the side, and nobody ever went back to recheck it. Also, there's a tree right there when they did the road. They scummed the tree up really bad. It's a shade tree. It's right next to the what do you call it? The bridge going over the river, and it shades the river and it shades the bridge. It's an ash tree. I have pictures here. I'd like to show them to you if I can. Bob, would you take a look at these pictures, please?
John, why don't we take this offline? Okay. Thank you. We'll talk with the town engineer about this.
Yeah, and here's my issue, okay? We have issues, and it seems to be there's no oversight when something happens. There's nobody watching over what's going on here, and I'm very upset about that. And I feel as though these people, a lot of times, they're just ignoring what I have to say, and they try to prolong everything, and it seems as though they try to aggravate me, and I don't like that. And I hope that's not coming from you, Ted.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just answer a couple, and he made a couple points about myself, and I think it's appropriate to answer. Mr. Hersey appears in our office pretty much every day with a complaint about something that's going on in town. And we marshal the forces of our government to address his complaints. We have 23,000 people who live in town. If 23,000 people complained about something going on, whatever it would be, we wouldn't actually do anything other than go around and check to see if that's accurate or not. John, when you come in, and I have a folder in my desk where I met with you at least 4 times, an hour at least, it's probably 2 inches thick. I address every single concern you bring to me, along with every other concern that any citizen of the town brings. Sometimes they don't all resolve to your satisfaction, and I apologize for that, but the town has a set of rules and regulations, and we move through them, and we do address every single complaint, including your numerous ones.
99% of the time when I come to you with a complaint, okay, it's valid. I came to you in 2011 with 2 other people. We got nowhere. That's why we had to go to the Department of Interior.
John, that's a different subject.
Yeah, well, he mentioned...
I understand.
Okay, you got it?
I got
He said
it.
he addressed it, he hasn't.
Got it. Let's move on to the public hearing with National Grid. Where's Harry?
We can do the Fitch
And-
bond rating.
The what? Oh, I'm sorry, the Fitch bond rating comes first. Sorry about that.
Second, thank you.
Harry, you can come up anyway, though.
Actually,
I'm not going to let you, oh, we need to see?
We want to bring the finance
Okay,
folks up.
sorry
Just a
about
second, all right? So,
Harry, we might give you a new assignment in finance.
you ready for that, Harry? So, in our, Madam Chairman, as you know, members of the board, Fitch Rating Agency is one of the 3 rating agencies that the town uses to rate the town's bonds. And in the audience, we have Sue Nickerson and Rick Nowin.
Why don't we bring them up?
Why don't you guys come on up?
So both of you are always in the background, and you deserve an awful lot of credit for the work that you do.
They do, very much so.
Yep.
Sue is our town accountant, Rick is our assessor. Both Sue and Rick participated in the rating review with Fitch that occurred a couple weeks ago. Jean Montgomery, who is not with us today, is our treasurer, and she had a big hand in it. And quite honestly, both Rick, Sue, and Jean put together the presentation that I was able to make to Fitch. Fitch confirmed our AAA rating, and we will put this on our website. It documents a number of areas of the government's performance, and they're outstanding across the board on virtually every area about how the town is run, how the town's social, economic standings are, its property values, its debt loads, its finances, and I think people would take great comfort from this. So I want to thank these guys for their excellent work, and
As always.
an opportunity for the community to rejoice in some of their own successes.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Gentlemen?
Thank you.
I echo that sincerely. Thank you for your hard work.
And I know the hard
Great.
work both of them do, because I kind of bug Sue a lot for data, like a whole lot. But she always delivers it, and it's always perfect.
No
But
problem.
seriously, thank you both very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Ken, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ted.
Now, Harry. You're missing your sidekick tonight.
I am the sidekick.
You're Dennis?
I am. I'm Barbara Kelleher. I'm the acting permits representative for National Grid.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, what do we have here?
Okay. The National Grid hereby respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 355 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in Highview Drive in Hingham from the existing 2-inch gas main at house number 39 southerly to number 30 to serve houses 32, 33, 34, and 35, and house 23 Ocean View Drive.
Harry, anything unusual about this, or?
The only thing that makes it, a bit unusual, not so much from the town's perspective, but from the delivery of the gas main, it goes through a private easement, but that's up to the gas company that, acquired that by one of the residents. It all originates from Foley Beach Road. There's no gas coming in from Park Circle, where Ocean Drive starts.
How much of the road is being open? The usual?
Yeah, 2 to 3 feet maximum.
Mr. Healy?
Thank you. Age of the roadway?
That road was paved, I believe, early to mid-'90s.
Okay. With respect to, I found it equally interesting that this is going through a backyard as opposed to a street. Does it, if it couldn't go through there, where would it go through, Harry? Park Circle, or?
They've had to run the gas from Park Circle all the way through the neighborhood down to that location.
Wow.
Okay.
One of the residents who remodeled the house or built the house at the end of the circle made a some type of arrangement with some of his neighbors to bring gas from Foley Beach to his property, and they've extended it already once to, service another house in that neighborhood. Now, I believe, I think it's going to catch, and I think the whole neighborhood will probably eventually get gas.
Will that require the size of the pipe to be expanded?
I don't believe so. I think, I'm not, a gas employee, she may be able.
Probably not. Probably
2
not.
inches,
2 inches
yeah.
for high pressure is adequate.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it at that. Okay.
So most people now will have access to gas in this area.
That's correct, as far as down as Ocean View Drive. And as he said, that perhaps in the future, they'll be back.
39 is one of the newer houses on Highview. Was that one of the ones that wanted this? No, it isn't. Okay.
I believe it was extended once already for house
To
number
him?
39.
Okay.
It was. May I comment?
Sure. Come up and identify yourself.
My name is Linda Luke, and I live at 30 Highview Drive, and I've been on the phone with Barbara Kelleher. And I think it's very interesting that the main is going down as far as my house, because when my neighbors came to me with the idea of putting this project together, I was part of it, and I told them I wanted to invest in this. And then they got back to me and told me that I was not able to be included because I have no immediate plans to tie into the gas main. I've just purchased a oil-burning furnace within the last 5 years, and I have a perfectly good electric stove, but I feel like it's a real investment in my property to be part of this project. So I spoke to Barbara twice. I was given the name of a Deborah Muse, and I have called her and left messages last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, and today with no response. And I do not understand, if I'm willing to invest in this project, why I cannot be part of it.
Yes, we turn it over to...
And I gave another person your name, and I'll speak to him tomorrow and make sure that he
Especially
knows that.
if the main is in fact ending in front of my house.
Right.
So what is the reason why she can't?
Well, she's not immediately going to hook up to the, all her appliances are brand new, so she wants to, it would be cost
I
ineffective.
mean, other she's going to use the oil.
Yes.
She's going to
I have no
continue
reason to tap
yeah.
into it now, but I believe that it's an investment in my property value.
I understand.
And I'd like to be part of the
Is
project.
she able to do that in the future?
I would say so.
Unless we pave the road, and then you've got the 5-year moratorium.
And I can tell you that the road was definitely paved before 1994, because that's how long I've lived
It's
there.
charming.
Yeah.
It's charming and quaint.
Well, the neighborhood is really changing.
Yeah.
As some of these large houses at the end of the street, who I think were the impetus for this gas coming to the neighborhood. It's a good thing overall for everybody, but the neighborhood is not the one I moved into. So at this point, I'm probably the last house between the ocean and where I live that has not been torn down and replaced with a much larger house. But I still love my house, and I think it has a lot of value, and I would like to be part of the project.
Can I ask a follow-up question, please? If the gas can't be, or that presently is not planned to be hooked up to Ms. Luke's house, why is the line going down that far?
Because it has to go, I shouldn't answer. I think I know.
I just think from a technical standpoint now, not for being a National Grid employee, I don't think there's any problem with hooking house number 30 up in the future because the gas main runs right by there. There's ample supply of gas. The gas company has in the past brought a service line up and cut it off at the property line for future use. That would be probably at the resident's expense. And they'd only keep that stub there, I think it's 2 years, I may be mistaken, then they may have to be, they're forced to cut that off at the main by the DPU, after I think it's a 2-year, option to open it up. And they should be better suited to let it go as it is,
Okay.
unless you heard that we were gonna pave the road, which right now is not in the plans to pave the road, and hook up when she needed it. So I think technically there's no problem with her hooking up to the gas main going by our house.
So there's really an engineering reason, is what I'm hearing here.
And I think that they also have to come down to my house to be able to go across the street to
Yeah, I mean,
Ocean View.
Their plan, have you seen the plan?
Yes, I have. I have a copy
I
of
mean,
it.
it goes right up to your house, almost
I know.
by the full width, the full frontage of your house. So I don't see, I mean, I've seen them come off a gas main, with a house that's probably number 28, that far of an angle to draw, to supply with a gas service. So I don't think your house, technically it wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. In the future.
Yeah, I mean, if she's giving you some, yeah, until it's prepared, right now, there are no
That's
plans to
posted
pave
well
that
in
road.
advance.
No, our road's in pretty good shape. Park Circle, that's another story, but we'll talk about that later.
That's on the construction schedule. So,
Okay, well, I'm happy with that answer. As long as I know that there's a future and I can be part of that in the future. It just seemed really odd to me that I was willing to invest the money in it, and I was not given the chance to.
well, I do want to encourage you to remain in contact with the gas company, and they may want you to put a service stub to your property. I'm just saying from a technical standpoint, in my experience, that's what I've encountered. I don't believe there's going to be an issue if you decided to go for gas at some point in the near
So,
future.
Harry, maybe just repeat for the people at home. That's the first time I've heard that. That's really good to know that if you're not going to hook up within 24 months, 2 years, give or take, that they won't draw the stub up to the end of your property.
Yeah, if
You say it better.
At the owner's expense, if you have a vacant lot you plan on, developing, building a house there and want gas service in the future, the gas company is willing to put a stub up to the property line until you're ready to hook up to the gas.
But you have to do
I encourage
it.
everyone to, contact National Grid and ask for the specifics of that.
But
Well,
the
I
time
will, but
frame
I'll-
is, you have to do it
Yeah,
within 2 years.
you have to hook up to the gas in a reasonable time.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll point out
sure that-
contacting them and getting response is not always easy, but I appreciate everybody's.
Well, this time of year, I can speak for the gas company, they are extremely busy with a lot of gas requests for service in their house because of the type of season. Everyone's going to be turning that thermostat up, and they want gas another time that we do it. I know they're out
The
spread
price of
over there.
oil is
Well, Barbara's
that's
been great.
popular. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good plug for you.
Thanks.
If I can answer any questions to the process, if you have any other questions, feel free to call me.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? This has been great. We actually had questions.
Motion?
Motion. Paul, you okay?
I'll make a motion to approve the request of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 355 feet of 2-inch gas main in Highway Drive. This gas main will originate from the existing 2-inch main at house number 39, and continue under the paved surface of Highview Drive for the entire length, to completion at house number 30. This gas main is required to provide gas service to the following houses on Highview Drive, number 32, 33, 34, and 35, and house number 23, Ocean Drive. This approval is subject to the stipulation of the Department of Public Works, including a letter dated July 17, 2014.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just
Harry,
want to add
thank you as
that
always.
I believe the Finance Committee is in great hands, and they will need my help. That's viewing your,
However, you stand ready to help, right?
always. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
Okay, Farmers Market. We're on a roll for good stuff today. No cookies and no...
Oh, no, we did that,
I try.
a number of years ago.
I know, see, I remember it when you did it.
Yes, I do too. That was a surprise to us. I'm Mark Cullings, the president of the market. Bill Marshall is with me. He's the market manager, and some friendly faces in the audience. 2 members of our board, Marge Schiller and Beverly Vernon and Linda Luke, who just spoke, who are all very involved in the market and the friends of the Hingham Farmers Market. The reason for us coming here today is that we're going to celebrate Hingham Farmers Market Day at the market this Saturday, and I think again for the 8th consecutive year, we would like to request that the Board of Selectmen denote Saturday as Hingham Farmers Market Day. The market is going great guns. We're at peak season. I've just handed out a little graphical.
Let's see if we can put it up.
Explanation that shows, I don't know whether viewers at home can see the graph, but we began counting attendance using a estimator formula last year, about a third of the way through the market. We're doing it weekly now to give us an idea and give the vendors an idea of how the market is doing. And as you can see on that map, through week 17, which was last Saturday, the blue columns are this year, the red columns are last year. So we're trending well ahead of the last year's performance. And I think we all in our gut know that that's happening. Chief Perino asked us to have police details weekly this year after he and his wife had come to the market last year and said, you know, it's getting kind of busy down here. So we're doing that now and during the summer season, and it's a great help. The detail officers have been extraordinarily helpful and a very good presence at the market. So, we'd be happy to answer questions, and don't want to take up a lot of your time, but we're very proud of our market. I would just mention that the goose issue is yet to be resolved. That's not. We appreciate the efforts that the town has undertaken, but Bill and Karen Whitfield and I, who were down there early on Saturday mornings, spent as much time cleaning up goose feces from the parking lot this past week after the spraying as we have ever done. So it's still an issue for us.
And we're aware of that. So we're looking to fix the problem. So, Paul, anything? No. Paul?
Great job, Mark. You too, my man.
Many hands,
all
it's not,
of
you know.
them. Everybody here.
Like
Pardon me, I've left something particularly important out, and that is that this Saturday at the Farmers Market Day, we are conducting a raffle. There will be a raffle drawing at the end of the market. The prize is $225 of what we call Billy Bucks, which are script that gets used in the at the market. But this year, there's a special purpose. We will use the proceeds of the raffle to purchase an automated external defibrillator, an AED,
nice.
for use at the market. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to negotiate with the trustees of the bathing beach so that the lifeguards have access to it, perhaps at the bathhouse, but we've not had that discussion. But that's and the Friends of the Hingham Farmers Market have been conducting the raffle, and so we look for support and generosity from our patrons.
Yeah, we're just finalizing signing the proclamation that one of us or all of us will read. Can we just give this to Mark and Bill? This is a first. Gracious.
Would you like me to start reading it?
Yes.
Sure.
And then we'll be down there, and hopefully the two of you can come down for a few minutes too. We'll do it like right when it opens.
Maybe about 10 of 10 would be a good time to 5 minutes of time.
Might actually find a parking place. It's been very difficult finding parking.
Find a parking place at 9:45, maybe.
It's-
And the stampede of people coming in will probably be able to be controlled a little bit.
All right, well, I'm going to read the proclamation for the folks at home, as well as those of us in the audience. And it starts out, whereas His Excellency Deval L. Patrick, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has proclaimed August 3rd through 9th, 2014 to be Massachusetts Farmers Market Week. And whereas farmers markets are essential to the vitality of Massachusetts farms and are part of the cultural tradition of the Commonwealth, and whereas the Commonwealth is home to more than 250 farmers markets, which create a festive open-air setting which enhances community spirit and civic pride by offering a natural place for community gathering, and whereas over 100 farmers markets participate in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, thereby increasing access to fresh, healthy foods to all citizens of the Commonwealth, and whereas farmers markets help heighten public awareness of the agricultural diversity of Massachusetts and the benefits of buying local and preserving open space, and whereas it is befitting for the citizens of Hingham to recognize the continued contribution of farmers markets to local consumers, as well as their positive impact on the economy of the Commonwealth, And whereas Hingham's tradition of its farmers market, now in its 36th season, makes it the third oldest in the Commonwealth. Now therefore, we, the Hingham Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim August 23rd, 2014 to be Hingham Farmers Market Day, and urge all citizens to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance.
You know
Thank you
what?
very much.
We'll even take that as the vote, because we have to vote. So I'll take a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I got it in writing.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I really want to thank you. It's just a joy to go to the market and go see Marge. And we got graduation cake
Yes, you did.
recently.
Yes, you did.
That was very good. And thank you I appreciated my piece of cake very much. Thank you. And we'll see you Saturday. And hopefully all three of us can be there.
Not me, I'm out of state.
You are.
That's why I put a little oomph into the proclamation.
I like that. So hopefully, can you be there?
I think so.
Okay.
My wife will bring me down. She loves it down there, so.
Yeah, good. So we'll see. But thank you all very much. It's a lot of hard work that goes into this, but it's much appreciated. Okay.
Thank you.
The Recreation Commission and Department, Vicki and all of her folks, and I see all but one commissioner here, I believe.
Team is
He's
on.
next to you if you don't mind.
Can I just make a quick comment to her?
Hi, come on up. Pull a chair up.
Vicki, just a quick aside, I half expected you to be here with more than just visuals. I thought you might have the buckets with you.
Well, you're getting to my punchline, aren't you?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, but I want to let you know we are committed to
You're
doing
ready.
it.
You're
Yep.
ready.
We need
Little
it.
behind the
Yeah, we're
20.
committed all
We
right.
needed an extension.
All right.
We are going to do it, to get all of us
That's all right.
together. Just
Gaps.
for the folks at home, the Rec Department and Commission challenged the three of us to do the bucket of ice over our heads. So we are going to... Paul's going to do it. He's going to do it. No. Can you see that? Wouldn't that be something on TV?
For TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we're all not. We're looking forward to it.
That was a great presentation that you guys did, coordinating it. That was fantastic.
We don't have quite the cast of thousands to do that, but the three of us are mighty. We'll be there. Okay, I'm going to turn it over, Vicki, if you would introduce everyone.
I'm going to ask Paul.
Oh,
Okay, so
awesome.
this is kind of a team effort, I guess like the Ice Bucket Challenge, but let me just first say that what you're going to see tonight is an overview of the Recreation Department, and I don't think we've actually done this before. I know that I've had the chance to participate in some selectmen meetings where we come with a particular issue, and we discuss that. But tonight is really about giving you a briefing on what this program is all about. And I think will open your eyes to a few things that are pretty amazing. I'm still amazed at what I've seen happen over the last few years. Since I started, all of you are new. So we serve 5-year terms, so we're kind of long-term in this thing. And so we wanted to take the chance also to brief the three of you, even though a couple of you have come to our meetings on a regular basis. I'd also like to introduce my colleagues. Vicki Donlin is the chairman of the Recreation Commission, and Sarah Amelia has joined us in the last year. And then just in the last week, Adrian Ramsey has just joined us. So we want to welcome Adrian to the team. Bud Thorne could not be with us tonight. And then, of course, I would be missing a big part of this if I didn't introduce the team leader of this whole thing, which is Mark Durrell, who you all know very well. And I'm really thrilled to have the chance to work with Mark. He's one of the shining stars in the Hingham Town management team, and you'll see why tonight. So the overview, the agenda, which I think you control the slides, right? The program actually touches over 5,000 people in the town, and you'll see a little bit about that. The agenda tonight covers a few topics that we've prepared for you. And again, this is a high-level overview.
Go again.
There's a lot of detail behind this, but you'll get a sense of what our scope of operations are, what the performance is to date. We measure all of our programs, sort of programs that you might know about, current projects, new projects. We're always bringing online new projects. And you'll get a sense of sort of the spirit of the whole thing. Many people touch one or two parts of the recreation department. They say, well, I remember the camp, or I go to the gym, or I played basketball, or whatever. But you're going to, I think what you'll see tonight is how comprehensive the program is. And for people that are watching, you'll get a sense of things you may not know about as well. We'd like to wrap it up with a proposal. Why did we come here? We came to brief you, but we're ready to do more. And Vicki's going to talk to you about that when we get to that part. So if you could move the slide to the next slide. And I think people can see this. I see it up there on the TV. At a high level, what we'd like you to think about when you think of the Recreation Department is these three aspects of it, right? It's extremely comprehensive programming. It's very complete. It serves people from 2-year-olds to senior citizens. It's got an incredibly strong management team. You saw that on the Ice Bucket Challenge. A spirited group of people. And it's very proactive with the community. It's very involved with the community, and it involves in things that are fun for people to do. The bottom line from a business standpoint is this thing is 100% self-funding, and it does $1 million in revenue. It's cash flow positive. The town pays Mark's salary, and that is it. And so we're really proud of the fact that we have that type of cash positive operation, and we think it's ready to take on more responsibility. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to our Director of Operations for the Recreation Department, Mark Thorell.
Thank you, Paul. So I really feel truly blessed to have a team around me, an administrative team around me that are really incredible. I like to say that our most important organizational strength is our incredibly talented professional administrative staff. We have 4 full-time administrators, as you can see up there, extremely efficient and motivated to serve the residents of Hingham. Additionally, in the summertime, we have 6 summer administrators who come from a variety of backgrounds, including 2 professional school teachers and 1 professional public school aide. They work for us during the summer months and help us manage a staff of 75 seasonal employees. Additionally, during the school year and throughout the summer months, we have another 25 year-round part-time employees, extremely customer-friendly, and they're situated in the rec department in a number of programs such as the fitness room, child care, Friday night events, birthday parties, open rec, most recently down the harbor at the new kayak program. As I just mentioned, we have about 75 seasonal employees, and we are very fortunate to have so many high school and college-age students who have literally grown up through the rec program, attended summer camp here, or taken some of our sports or dance or arts and crafts classes, and are now looking to return to work for us. This job has actually become increasingly competitive. We typically receive about 130 to 150 job applications for the 75 spots. And in terms of who teaches our actual programs outside of our summer camps and our in-house programs, I like to, there are some of the most incredibly talented, skilled, certified instructors on the South Shore. We have about 35 professional instructors, from spinning instructors, personal trainers, dance instructors, tennis, to its soccer instructors, so it's really top-notch instruction. So looking at the scope of what we offer, just to hit a few of our larger programs, our summer camp now, we go a full 10 weeks, so the week after the kids are out of school to the week before kids go back to school, so we go the full 10 weeks. We like to incorporate as much as possible into the sessions, from sports, arts and crafts, dance, swimming, and also team building activities. Our minimum age is 2.9 for our preschool program, and our highest age bracket is teenagers. About 6 years ago, we created a Teen Extreme program, and this summer, we surpassed 300 teens in it in enrollment for the first time, so we're pretty excited about that. And for our total enrollment for summer 2014, we've surpassed 1,400 spots filled for this current summer, and approximately bringing in about $300,000. Our fitness program for the rec, geared towards adults, we average between 25 to 35 adult fitness classes per week, everything from spinning, yoga, boot camp, bar, pump and jump, to educational nutritional classes. We don't just have 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds. We also have many seniors who attend the fitness room, and we have more than 500 members in our fitness room as well. And we're projected to bring in about $150,000 for this current fiscal year. And our average class cost is $8 per class, so we like to remain as affordable as possible. Our children's programs, we like to average about 100 to 150 children's programs per year, not just sports, but also dance, arts and crafts, and fitness as well. And we like to go from literally a few months to 18 years of age. You might think to yourself, what can you offer to a child who's just a few months old? We actually we have childcare, and we also started a new program in the winter called Winter Indoor Playground, where we set up the entire gymnasium to act as literally an indoor playground, and have mats and tumbling toys and all that.
It's chaos. It's totally wonderful, but it's crazy.
We like to refer to that as organized chaos.
I see.
The annual 4th of July road race has truly become a part of the fabric that makes up the Hingham community, with over 2,300 runners and a total revenue of $90,000, of which $40,000 directly comes from Hingham businesses who like to be a part of the road race and sponsor the road race. This account really acts as our capital funding for the year. So what does that mean? It could mean that it might be seed money to start a new program. Most recently, our kayaking or a stand-up paddleboard program, where we invested $10,000 and within 3 weeks had that program up and running. It funds the Silver Senior Program, which enables any Hingham resident 75 and older to become a member of the fitness room for free. Also funding free events such as the Halloween costume party, teaming up with the South Shore Country Club, and also the Easter egg hunt. In terms of revenue growth, a couple pictures up here, but overall the net revenue in the bottom left-hand corner, you can kind of see back from 2002 to our projection for this current fiscal year. That's close to a 400% in 12 years. And more recently, in the last 7 years, we're looking at closer to 122%. Just taking a couple different programs to kind of show how it adds up to the net revenue. Summer program, you can see in the last 7 years, a 72% increase. In the same time span, children's programs from 2007 to 2014, 122% increase. Those are just slices of a pie which make up the net revenue. So how do we manage such growth now into the future? I'd like to get into a little extra detail about our software management system. 6 years ago, we invested in a hosted, multifaceted recreation software management package with ActiveNet. The software infrastructure is fully maintained, web-based, and we have access to it anytime. The software updates are automatic. And we have an unlimited number of licenses and workstations that have access to the system at any point. Within memberships, we have the ability to process individual and family memberships. We can create photo ID cards, manage passes, track renewal dates, and track usage statistics. Our activity registration module streamlines the entire activity management process. Automation decreases transaction handling times, and this in turn improves decision-making and overall customer experience. Public access and online functionality leads to timely customer service, which reduces admin time and cost of registration. Customers really have around-the-clock, 24/7 access to our department. Online registration provides parents the ability to track family schedules, print receipts, and view all their program offerings for not only themselves but their children as well. Facility reservations, we have the ability to schedule fields and our facility, which enables the public to go online and see who's on fields when, or who's in the facility when, whether it's the gymnasium, or Crestfield, or Carlson Field. People can see when it's available to come into permit. We also have a point-of-sale module, which improves customer service, reduces cash handling errors, and increases labor efficiency. And within ActiveNet, it also provides us with a countless number of financial statistics and reports, which help us create better, more informed decisions. And perhaps most importantly, ActiveNet helps execute effective marketing programs that encourage community participation and drive the online registration. And today we have just over 3,000 Hingham residents on our email campaigns within this system. And just in summary, from my point of view, this summary is, with current projects and new projects, what really gets us excited is any new innovative ideas. So not a month goes by without either a member from the community or one of our professional instructors to say, hey, can we try this? And we really look at our job as to make new ideas happen and be implemented in an efficiently time manner. So whether it's a kayaking program or a new year-round dance program, we really truly get excited for new innovative programs and meeting the demand of the public. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the torch over to Vicki.
Thank you, Mark. You have an idea and an overview of the rec department, and more importantly, the people at home have a better idea of what the rec department is all about. The rec department is a great deal for everyone in this town. It's affordable, it meets the needs, and as we all know, good health means physical activity, and we are trying to do everything we can to make sure that the rec meets all the needs that our people are looking for today. Clearly, the rec department of today, and I'd like to point out in the last 6 years since Mark took over, it's not your father's Oldsmobile. We generate $1 million in revenue, and I have to say $1 million revenue would be admired by any business. We're self-funded, as you've heard, and the only amount that goes to the town is the director's salary. So we do have a proven model for growth. Mark spent a lot of time on the database, but for those of you who have businesses, you know how important it is that a database that has the ability to make sure you have constant activity with your customers is key to the success of this program. This brings me to the project that's most dear to my heart, and that's the repurposing of the barn, better known by many people in the town as the historic Cordage Factory building. It's located on recreation land behind Town Hall on Cronin Field. In the last 3 years, and I know the selectmen are aware of this, the CPC has funded and town meeting has approved the first 3 phases of bringing this historic building back into use. When Phase 3 is completed, later this year, we will have 2 handicapped accessible bathrooms open for daytime use and managed by the Recreation Department. I know people at home are jumping up and down now, saying there are now going to be bathrooms for all those activities. And the people who live next door will be very happy that their backyards are no longer being used as bathrooms. So anyone who frequents Cronin Field knows how important bathrooms are available on this site. This fall, the Recreation Department will present the fourth phase for funding to CPC. And if it's approved, we'll need the Board of Selectmen's approval to fund the multi-purpose space for all the town to use. This is why I bring it to your attention now. We don't know that this will happen, but this is the space that you can already tell the rec department has full need to expand to. The importance of a multi-use space will be that it will be available to the senior citizens as well, and they are always looking for new space, as well as town hall. Again, this space will be something that all of Hingham can use if it is funded. So this is important because it could happen at next town meeting. This brings me to how the rec department can become even a more vital partner to the town. First, the consolidation of fields, the scheduling and maintenance of those fields. This is something that's been in discussion for years in Hingham and perhaps just tossed about by some of you on this board. But it's time for the responsibility of this to be done under one town department so that cost savings can be appreciated by the town. At the end of this meeting, Mark will give each of you the rec's current turf maintenance and scheduling plan for the fields that are under our supervision. And I know that you've requested that from others in the town. Our goal is to take a look at this, and maybe this is the opportunity to finally put all of the fields under one town department. Second, many years ago, the town decided to purchase the South Shore Country Club. As a resident and member of the club at that time, I supported this decision. But the question is, why are we leasing the management and operations of the pool and tennis court to the YMCA? Leasing out a town asset doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm sure others wonder that. We now have a department that is prepared with the kind of extensive database and registration system that you've heard. We're ready to take on these kinds of programs. Certainly, the rec department, with cooperation from the South Shore Country Club, can manage the pool and tennis courts and maintain the cost and reinvest into capital improvements. That's what you've seen the rec department do over and over again. We reinvest into the equipment and the maintenance of the things that we work with. At the very least, the rec department currently manages all the tennis courts in the town. So certainly we should be managing the tennis courts over at South Shore Country Club. Finally, something that's not on our slides, and this is directed to you, Ted. Why doesn't the Hingham Recreation Department have a Facebook page? We'd like to join our colleagues in towns such as Cohasset, Duxbury, Situate, and Wellesley, just to name a few. Today, recreation is something people need to get involved with. They get excited about it. As you know, we recently challenged you, the Board of Selectmen, with the Ice Bucket Challenge. And after being challenged by the Hingham Police Department, the only way we could share this wonderful opportunity was through my Facebook page and the Hingham Police Department. It would be wonderful to be able to post that on a Facebook page that the Hingham Rec Department has. Our leadership is strong. I witnessed this with Mark, as you mentioned, Paul, just a moment ago, and Irma seconded. He brought together senior staff, all of the camp counselors, 160 campers, all together in less than 24 hours to take this challenge. So now I say the Hingham Recreation Department wants to move into the 21st century with our strong leadership, and we challenge you to give us the opportunity to do that. We're open to any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.
That's an awesome presentation, Vicki, when I saw it. Do you want to flip to your mission statement and vision so that people at home can see it? I've always been a fan of the rec, and the Rec Commission has always been very near and dear to my heart. I think you all have done an amazing job. And I also thank Mark for helping to work on the SNAP program, too. He and I both sit on the board, and that's a Special Needs Athletic Partnership, and Mark's been very key there as well, helping get the program started from his knowledge of the rec. But I'll open it up to the questions from my colleagues. Mr. Healy.
Thank you. How you doing?
He can't get
Have you got your ice ready?
He can't get beyond the bucket of ice water.
No, I have a serious question, actually. We were recently talking to your former colleague who went on to the advisory committee. He talked about the importance of affordability and not simply raising the prices of programs for kids who can't swing that cost. So my question to you is, do you have a mechanism in place for scholarships or some kind of assistance? And can you just describe how that works and how confidentiality is maintained, and how extensive is it?
Sure. So our scholarship program is worked with the public schools where the adjustment counselors, so for instance, for our summer camp program, we have allotted 8 scholarships per elementary school, so 32 in total. And the adjustment counselors for the schools make the decision on which kids receive the scholarships, and then they simply just send us over the registration forms, and we slot them in. So we have a budget for it, and it's actually funded, one of the things that's funded by the road race that we always set aside money for scholarships.
How many apply?
Really, the adjustment, we give the number to the adjustment counselors, and they've never really said that they've had a huge need for more. Usually we found that that's typically about the right number. We've actually had other groups in town who have offered to say if we have a need for more, that they're willing to also support other scholarships to specifically our summer camp. But usually we find about 8 per elementary school has been pretty good in terms of the need of the community.
Paul, I might point out that the cost of attending camp is an absolute bargain to begin with. Now, it's a good question to ask about the scholarships, but you might, just to give a sense, we talk about the total revenues and the cash flow positive, but maybe to give a sense of what a deal it is.
So the summer camp is about $4 and change per hour, and it includes field trips, T-shirts, entertainers, professional tennis instructors, dance instructors, so it's about $4 an hour.
About for a week is how much?
A week is $249, that's 60 hours, $249 for a 6 to 12-year-old.
That's like all day.
Right.
Well, what if you're not in the school system? How do you reach that component of the participants?
In that situation, if someone was too young to be in the school system, internally we would just hear the need, and we would
word them out.
we would help the people out.
I also want to add that programs are kept relatively low. As Mark mentioned, $8 for your yogas and your spins and et cetera, because of the creative way that Mark pays the professional teachers that come to the rec department. It is a partnership, so that we are paying people as independent. So it works very nicely in keeping the costs low. Rather than raising our costs, we're able to work as partner with the teachers, and that's why they come to the rec center, and that's why they come to us and want to bring on programs at the rec center, because they see it as an opportunity to bring people here. We're actually off. It's like having your own little business, and we provide the space for them to do that. So it's a very big win-win, and I see that as one of the creative ways that we have so many programs working throughout the Recreation Department.
I have one further question, if I might. It'll be quick. Do you envision putting a turf field in any of the fields that you have jurisdiction over?
I mean, that's the cost of a turf field is kind of beyond our scope, so that's more of a decision. I almost look at that for the town of Hingham and the people at town meeting, and a lot bigger than what we do on a year-to-year basis.
You think that's something that should be done at town meeting?
Yeah, the way, and we talk about investing back into our fields, the budget covers our operations largely, and because they're efficient operations, we do create some additional cash, which we use to buy equipment or fix a backstop or buy a spinning bike or something like that. So those are the kinds of investments that we can make that are more, for capital equipment, but not to do an entire field over.
But I do think it's important, and I do think it might be worth a sit-down meeting to share what the fields and how we maintain and schedule the fields, so that we are always reinvesting in making sure that the maintenance of the field can work with the people who need the field.
Could you maybe tell the folks which fields you manage? And
Sure. So the Carlson Complex, the fields behind Town Hall, Margot's 1 and 2 on Ward Street, Powers Field, Crest Field, Hersey Field.
And then we work with the neighborhoods, for example, the neighborhood where we work with them to help them get CPC funds to fix a local neighborhood playground. Right?
The,
So we don't
Bradley
necessarily
Woods
manage those
playground.
places,
Bradley
but we
Yep.
help them with that process.
That was a good project.
Excellent.
Is it almost done? I think it's...
Oh, it's actually starting this weekend.
Oh, it is,
Yeah.
okay. Excellent. I think
question.
this is excellent.
Thank you.
How about you?
Well, just a quick question. Vicki, since you brought it up, and we're all here, how do you envision getting Facebook? I mean, is it something we can do and then it's short term?
I think it's just getting permission and being able to have a Facebook page so that people who want to get involved and interact with the Facebook page. So I'll let Tim.
The town, we did an audit of our social media capabilities and our data processing capabilities back in January, February this year. And from that, we signed a commitment that we received funding for this year. We brought a woman by the name of Kate Jackson on board, and she'll be handling our social media campaign. We are in the process right now, as many of you know, you three know, we're rolling out a new phone system. And so priority, I decided I would let IT handle getting the new phone system up and running before school opened up in September. But one of their major tasks is to bring us into social media and to do it in an organized, uniform way. Different departments want to move at different paces. I know that Rec, going back into the 90s, late 90s, had a web page up along with the library before the town did. And so that initiative back in the late 90s was to bring all of the web pages together into one umbrella. And now we're trying to do the same thing with the Facebook pages, and trying to learn from our mistakes of the past about, our web page was under the name and jurisdiction of our first IT director, for example, because that's how you signed up individually with his credit card. Belonged to a private individual, not the town of Hingham. So we want to make sure we correct those things going forward, and make sure that we don't step into some pitfalls that are available out there for you in social media. So we want to be careful with it. But
And I
yes.
didn't want to be rough on Ted, but I do, and I want Mark to speak to this.
Well, thank
but in order to get the kayaking and paddleboard, as you know, this was literally done in 2 weeks. And we used, Amy, what, Facebook?
Oh,
The-
Friends at Hingham.
Friends of Hingham Harbor,
So
which is
can you
fabulous.
imagine having a Facebook page of our own?
We can.
That's where we're going. I mean, again, this isn't so that we can challenge you every week to an ice bucket challenge, where I can come up with a whole lot of other ideas that might give you a lot of fun. This is really about interaction with the community.
We're going to bring Paul Healy along.
Yeah.
Paul Gannon and I are game for anything, but we're working on.
Let's go mountain
Why don't
climbing.
you come on up
You got to come up
and
to the
identify
microphone because
yourself?
they can't hear you if you're not talking into it.
Yeah.
Sarah Amelia. But something I've really seen since coming on board to the rec is I spend probably way too much time on social media. And because of that, I've seen a lot of inquiries from the community coming onto other local pages, like the Hingham Pin Board is a big one that's really taken off in Hingham. A lot of people, and it tends to be a lot of young moms, asking all kinds of questions about the community, but I see a lot of comments about on there asking about, what do my kids bring to rec camp? Has anybody noticed that this swing is broken at the field, at the playground behind Town Hall? These types of questions, and since I've come on, I'm able to jump on and maybe answer a thing or two. I think it would be really nice to have a streamlined way to address those inquiries, because it's really nice to be able to go on and ask a question the night before rec camp. You're a first timer, my child is 2.9 years old and I'm sending them off and I'm nervous. I can ask somebody, and the department has an organized way to address that, and I think that would be really helpful.
And Sarah raised an excellent point when she just said the night before. So this is why we've been cautious about taking our entrance into social media, because it's an escalator that doesn't stop moving, and we need to be prepared to meet that commitment. And organizationally, we hadn't been, up until this year, willing to commit the resources for someone to actually post information from our side as to what's going on, because the worst thing in the world is to turn the open sign up and then the door opens and there's nothing there. So that's why we've taken this rather pragmatic and careful step. The police department's been using both Facebook and Twitter regularly, so we're going to be using different departments and their experience to help us mold this, but most importantly is that we have a steady commitment, so that when information's come in, we can respond.
It's good there's a commitment. What's the timeline for Facebook? And we're first in line, if you don't mind. I mean, we get right into a project because we have the resources to do it.
They literally started this week.
But I know the phone system is involved, like in terms of your staging of the IT department's project, where on the timeline is the social media project?
It's ongoing right now. We signed the contract and the person started this week, Monday, and we expect them to begin rolling out certain aspects of it over the next several months.
Okay.
Just to follow up, is there a process, a protocol where someone's going to reach out to the rec, or are they?
They haven't, like I said, they just started on Monday, so they're going to be developing the processes and protocols, literally. I mean, we're starting with a blank sheet of paper. And so I can't tell you any more other than that we're starting.
Well, I think they just volunteered to be the first.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of towns who have done it nicely that we can certainly model after.
And if I understand it right, is we need a little bit of time, but, you know, in the near future, if you haven't heard anything, please talk to us or Ted, and
Well, come
we'd love
back.
to get it started, yeah.
Come back for the 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting.
Great.
I'm happy to see you thinking about the consolidation of the fields, and I'm hopeful at some point we're going to have a recreation master plan, which will lay out and also hopefully lay out what might be in the future good for turf, what might not be, but also a plan to maintain the fields we have, because we don't maintain the fields.
No.
Cronin, thanks to you guys, is the best field in town. So that's great. And then just so the audience knows, the South Shore Country Club has a agreement with the Y. I think we're in year 2 of a 5-year agreement. Is it 3-year? I think it's a little longer, because I think there were 2 more years out. So this will go out for bid again, but we're certainly happy that you're thinking about it. That'd be great.
And again, the town doesn't need to bid on its own town asset. It just needs to take the leap of faith to understand that a department that has grown as we have and taken on such responsibility is ready.
I think you all have done an amazing job, and the kayaking and paddleboarding is a great example
Mark,
of...
do you want to just speak to how many we've had in the first week or 2?
Oh, sure. No, it's
Yeah, go
going
ahead.
great. The rentals are steady, obviously weather dependent, but on a good weather weekend, we average about 50 rentals on the weekend, so it's going really good.
So are you beyond people buying the ticket books? As I understood, that's what it started as.
There's a couple options. You can buy 10 punches, which are 10 2-hour rentals for $150, which comes to $15 for a 2-hour rental, or you can not have to make the $150 purchase and just show up one time, which is a $25 2-hour rental.
Are you assessing the parking impacts?
We only have 10 pieces of equipment, so at most, and usually if someone comes, it's like a mother and a father and a couple of kids, so we're looking at probably 3 or 4 cars at our busiest times.
Super. And we'll look forward to hearing how that program has done over the summer, because that's one that everybody that loves the harbor is excited about. What else?
I'll say.
Is that a good thing?
Oh, it's a great thing. It's a treasure of the town. It is.
Any more? Any questions from the audience? Jim, come on up, identify yourself, and...
Jim Watson, 291 Rockland Street. I've worked in various towns' open space and recreation plans. That's a big help. And we also always recommend a small boating program, the towns that have a big pond or any shoreline. And you're the first to do it. And it's marvelous. I just want to congratulate you. Is there any hope of having small sailboats to Sunfish or something of that scale?
I believe the Lincoln
Maritime
Sailing Club
Yeah, Lincoln
that.
Maritime.
They do, they do and they don't. I joined for a while, and you can use the turnabouts a couple evenings or a couple afternoons. But there weren't too many, and
It's only
I don't know.
reason
I think
wasn't
there's room for more.
Okay.
Well, I think
Yeah.
we're under great leadership now, and I think they do handle all the small sailing
But
boats
they
in
do
town,
have
so-
provisions for open sailing, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice going.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Great presentation. Are you going to put this up on a website somewhere so people can see it?
I believe the Hingham Journal is going to do that for us.
Nice.
Oh, we need it on our website, too.
Mark has
Okay.
some information for you as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Now let's move to the Sewer Commission, and I would invite our 2 sewer commissioners. How are we going to do this, Betty?
I think they could sit here, and you can have your candidates sit right there.
Oh, that'd work. So, Ed, Eric, if you'll come up and join us. And we're going to be jointly interviewing candidates for the Sewer Commission job. So let me welcome Ed Demko and Eric Gonver.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Ted. Good.
Do you want to get the first person in? And this should be Robert Higgins, if all goes well.
I'm going to see how far this will reach.
Welcome.
Good evening.
If you would tell us a little bit about yourself, and then why you've decided to seek this position, and then especially, are you going to run for the position in the next election?
Okay, your first question I'm not able to answer until the last, but, you know, I'll have to see how it goes, okay?
Okay.
I'm committed until I get, feel my way through it and see how it goes. But basically, I feel I can make a contribution, first of all, to the town by being on the commission. I'm very familiar with the collection system in Hingham. I'll just briefly tell you about it. It's a gravity system and a pressure system. We don't have a central treatment plant, so most of our effluent goes to Weymouth. And the pressure system that's down on Rockland Street, down that way, that's all under an intermunicipal agreement with the Town Hall wastewater treatment plant to take care of the end of all of that, okay? And I'm a strong advocate for maintenance and operation, efficiency in the utility. It doesn't matter what it is, And also, I think I would very much enjoy serving the town.
Gentlemen?
Bob, always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. I appreciate that. It's always a pleasure to see you also.
Have you been following the Ship Street
Yes, I have.
at all? Any
Yes,
thoughts
I
on
have.
that? Or
I've been following, I guess they're getting ready to wrap that up as far as construction goes. And I guess there have been some questions about issues up there. I'm not sure what they are, and so I won't get into it too much, but I guess there needs to be some issues resolved up there. And I guess it can be without too much of a problem.
If you were selected to serve on the Sewer Commission, what would you see your role with respect to the Highway Department and the Town Administrator?
Well, the Sewer Commission is an elected board, and I'm sure that the people on the Sewer Commission, even though they're elected, we all have to work together. We're not able to work independently completely, especially with the highway, because, we're always doing maintenance and fixing pipes and so forth and so on. They have a permitting process and an inspection process, and, that has to be followed by everybody, not just contract. Everyone has to follow that. It's easy enough to do.
I take it with your employment with the water company, you're familiar with the personnel on the highway?
Some of the people, yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Feel you could work?
Randy and yes, I worked with Randy for a number of years. That's
Feel you
correct.
could work with them cooperatively?
Anybody, everybody. Paul, it doesn't matter.
Okay, Bob.
You can't do it by yourself. There's no iron team. You have to do it together.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Hi, Bob. Thank you for applying, by the way.
Thank you.
And I know you said you have familiarity with the sewer commission, how it's working. I did look at your resume. Is there something specific that you've done in the past, or you seem to have a familiarity with the workings of the sewer commission? I just was curious.
Yeah, one of the jobs that I had when I worked for Hoadley & Son in Rockland, I was a technical representative and a sales representative for them, and I worked a lot of sewer projects with contractors and with municipalities, the types and kinds of materials, manholes, frames, grates, covers, pumping station equipment, and so forth and so on. So one system is distribution, the other system is collection, so that's the only difference. But there's a lot of piping, and there's still valves and so forth and so on. And I think my technical expertise over the years is probably pretty decent. Pretty decent, I've been in the trenches, and I've actually fixed that 16-inch line over on Lincoln Street many, many years ago when that let go. So a couple of times, actually. And then last year when it broke, it was right behind my house. So I got an opportunity to see the contractor go to work over there, and I picked up a bit of information there about how they now line the inside of those pipes with that fiberglass. That's a pretty neat trick, the way they do it. And that cold temperature that night, those guys, they did a terrific job. But that's the way to do it, and they were neat, they were efficient, and they were safe. Okay, so that's important.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do you see as the role of the commission?
Well, I see the role of commission. I know we have a lot of things going on. There's certainly a challenge in South Hingham with the industrial park and the derby shops and other proposed projects up there. And do we build an on-site treatment plant just for South Hingham? Do we create a sewer district up there, the South Hingham Sewer District, just for that reason, and try to put those together? Or do we do an on-site treatment plant just in the industrial park? Or can we tie in with the MWRA through Weymouth, either at the Weymouth end by the industrial park or over on Whiting Street up at Route 53? That's another alternative, because I think up in that area up there will be an opportunity and proposals that have become forward. And the zoners and the planners are going to have to, deal with that, and we're going to have to work together. So it's exciting up there, I think.
Do you see the commission taking the lead, or just part of a working group?
I think planning and zoning, and the commission could jointly work together a little bit, because we don't know what the actual future needs. Let's do a 5-year forecast and see what the type and kind of development that we might need to do up there. And that way, that would give us some data and some information that we could use to develop a concept or a proposal that will allow us to make some decisions about where do we want to go with this, And I've seen the town work for many, many years in different boards, and they work well. Recently, the ZBA was terrific. Those guys were terrific.
One last question. Are you aware of the management agreement between the town and the sewer commission?
Could you repeat the question, please? My sinuses are plugged up. I'm sorry.
Are you aware of the management agreement between the town and the sewer commission?
No, I am not.
Okay.
Okay.
Then it would be very unfair asking a question. However, I could still do it. No, I won't do it to you, Bob.
You can ask me.
I won't do that to you. How do you see the water company experience helping you here?
Management, operations, safety.
Do you see yourself getting involved in the day-to-day management?
Well, not really. I'm a hands-on guy, but they have a supervisor, and it's his responsibility for the day-to-day operations. If he needs someone from the sewer commission to come out and talk to him or help him out with something, I'd be the first guy to help him out. I mean, I'd be right there for him. That's not a problem. I'm not on salary here or anything, so we can, anytime.
You'll be well paid.
Oh, that's what I like to hear.
Anything else? Any questions you have for any of us? And Ed, Eric?
I want to thank you for submitting your name. I know you were involved in the
main coming down Main Street to the treatment plant, and you did a great job.
Yeah, that was a bear. That was a bear coming down Main Street.
Ledge?
We had some ledge, but we removed it mechanically. There was one spot up there that we were within 15 feet of the foundation of the house, and we very gently went by the front of that house, removing the rock hydraulically, very slowly, methodically. We got it done, and we used a special technique to compact the pipe at that point so that there wouldn't be any movement of the pipe and stuff like that. We didn't want to affect that foundation. It was granite up there. You could see through the cement and stuff, where the holes were. So we had to be very careful going up there. We also had some very historically significant flowers over on Pleasant Street where that pipeline was. And that was an interesting challenge. That was kind of fun. That whole thing was a learning curve for me personally, but it was a wonderful experience, and it was a job that was well done by everybody. I think it was great. We had a great time.
Eric?
Thank you very much for coming in tonight. I don't have any questions. I think they were all asked previously.
We'll start with you next time. How's that? Okay, any questions for us or any final thoughts you have that you'd like to communicate with us?
Just give me a fair shot.
Okay.
That's all I ask.
Okay, thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Yes.
Yep. Right there, Tom. Come and join us. Welcome.
Thank you.
And if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and about why you decided to apply for this, and then will you run for the office in the spring?
Okay. Tom Patch. The reason why I sought to get this position, basically I think I'm bringing a lot to the commission and the needs that the commission has. The commission needs, I believe, someone who has a pretty good understanding of the framework of the various sewer districts that we have in town and the interplay between those sewer districts as well as the enabling legislation and the regulations. I also having grown up in Hingham, and born and raised Hinghamite, I'm very familiar with the town. I have a little bit of an institutional memory that could lend to decision-making on the board. One of the objectives that I would like to do to achieve is to develop a more fully formed and fully vetted sewer bylaw, because if you look at our peer communities that have sewer, their sewer bylaws are quite extensive and cover the whole range, the continuum. And because people, when they come before the sewer commission or they deal with sewer issues, should have a confidence level and an expectation of what is required and what they're going to get. And I think that's something that the commission, you can always strive to be better, to improve. I think that's something that the commission, I think even former Chairman Salerno had said that, I think one of his comments recently was they could have done a better job communicating. And I think what you have to do is you have to have that information out there for people to avail themselves, so that when they come into the commission, they know what the deal is, the commissioners know what the deal is, and ideally you cut right to the chase and you make the necessary decisions. With respect to running next year, with all due respect, and no disrespect to any of the people here, I don't think that necessarily that's a qualification for being appointed, because the function here is, or the purpose here is to find someone to replace Mr. Salerno to carry out his term, because Mr. Salerno may not have run again. You know, obviously, if I feel that there's work that still needs to be done, then yes, and I think that's the way most people would feel about any elected position. If there's unfinished work, then that they would want to continue on and try to get as much of that work done.
Okay, thank you. Eric, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I think can I pass?
Yes, you can pass.
Not quite sure what I want to ask yet.
Okay, Ed.
I want to thank you for submitting your name, Tom, and the comments that you gave during your presentation.
You're welcome.
We'll start
Just,
with Paul.
Tom, thank you, excuse me, for applying and coming here. In terms of the day-to-day operation of the commission, what do you think you may bring to that? I know you talked about some policy issues and changing of bylaws, which I'm interested in, obviously. Day-to-day stuff, anything?
Well, I think I have a pretty good rapport with Randy Sylvester. I grew up with Randy. I played football with Randy in junior high school. I went to junior high school in this very building with Randy. I went to high school with him. He was a year ahead of me. I also believe I have a pretty good rapport with Steve Dempsey. And I've talked to them, both of them, about a lot of the sewer issues. I've interacted with the sewer commission staff. I think I have a fairly good rapport with them. My dad had worked his way up from being a call firefighter to fire chief in this town, so I kind of have a feeling that I kind of understand the municipal vibe of the town and dealing with the people and the workers in the town. Basically, you know, having done a number of years of practicing law, which I'm not doing now, but basically have been doing land use, municipal law, you know, in the course of, in fact, at one point was providing town council services to the town of Kingston and interacting with people on a daily basis and answering their questions. And it's about knowing, it's not necessarily knowing the answer off the top of your head, but it's knowing the issues and having good research skills to try to find those answers, because a lot of times those answers are out there. So in dealing with the day-to-day stuff, I think it's very important to educate oneself as to the requirements of every sewer district, really go back and get a lot of try to get as much institutional knowledge as you possibly can about this particular commission, so that when you do interact with people on a day-to-day basis, you have a consistency. And I think that's what people want. People want a level of expectancy, of certainty with their municipal government.
Thank you.
Tom, what is you're aware that there's a management agreement between the town and the sewer commission?
Yes.
What is your thoughts on that, and how would you contribute to making that work?
Well, to be candid, I have not read that agreement.
Okay, and that's an unfair question.
No, but it's a fair question in the sense that the issue of, you know, the town. I think what the town is trying to do is that the town, I think, is trying to be efficient in the way it uses its resources, and this is for the benefit of everybody as a whole, because not just in a cost savings, but just and essentially dealing with the bureaucracy. You're not having this overlap. So essentially, you know, there's a lot of towns, for example, I believe the town of Wellesley has consolidated their DPW, their sewer commission under the DPW. And, so I think there's a certain level of expectancy there when people are dealing with town services that they tend, and they're coming in, people coming in from other towns, and they probably think, sewer commission, DPW, basically there's a little bit of overlap there. And so it does make sense, but the thing that I think everybody has to realize is that the sewer commission is a creature of at least this is the North Sewer District. The Sewer Commission is a creature of special legislation, and has certain responsibilities. And so I think the Sewer Commission has to be very careful not to go outside the statute and delegate stuff that to under this management agreement that would potentially breach the requirements of the special legislation. So you see it from an efficiency point of view, you see it from an expectation point of view. I think I know, I've been to the meetings. I know there's a tug between the sewer commissioners and the DPW as about, and all I can say is it seems to me it's a work in progress. Nothing is going to be perfect. I think this was the first management agreement, if I'm correct. And probably there's things that need to be improved, and maybe things that should be passed on in the future. So.
Thank you. Paul?
Do you appreciate the fact that you, if appointed, would be in a position of responsibility and accountability to the town?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And would you expect the trust of the citizens of the town that you serve?
You try to earn their trust, yeah.
And my question to you, sir, have you fully disclosed your background for purposes of that decision to be made collectively by us?
I believe I have disclosed as much as I believe is relevant. There's, as you know, Paul, there's plenty of things that are out there. It's a matter of public record.
Okay. Well, my concern, Mr. Patch, is that you've listed, your law school education, your work as an attorney, and you've spoken to that in tonight's interview. And that, with all due respect to you, sir, you're not an attorney any longer, correct?
That's correct. And I think I did say I wasn't
Yes, you
practicing
did.
anymore.
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
I just would like to respond to that. I don't think necessarily being an attorney is a qualification, for this position. I don't think it's a prerequisite under the special legislation. It just, it's what I did. It's my work experience. It lends to the position.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Eric?
What are your future goals for the Sewer Commission?
Well, again, I think one of the things we have to do is, I think there really needs to be a more fully formed and vetted sewer bylaw that needs to be implemented. And again, if you look at our peer communities and see what they did, they have it very, very thorough, okay, and covers many of these issues. So that, for example, Eric, when you come in, okay, as a contractor, you know what to expect, okay? And I think as a contractor, you can appreciate that. There's nothing worse than having a client pulling their hair out because you tell them, well, this is the way it should go, but it's not happening that way, okay? And to be, to have this implemented as a bylaw, I know, policy is a little bit more flexible because you're not subject to the requirements of a bylaw, but from a level of expectation by the community, I think a bylaw is the better way to go, because I just think that people, when they come in, this is not an inexpensive proposition, dealing with sewer, and it could be going up more in the future because we have an older sewer system, and at least in the North Sewer District, we have an older system that could be requiring substantial capital investment to renovate and maintain. So I think people, where there's this at stake, I think people have a need to have certainty in your dealings with the commission. So that's one of the things I would want. And the second thing I would want to do is develop, it's not really a policy manual, but something more of an institutional manual, so that where you have people moving, coming in and out of positions on different committees, that you have a manual that has all the enabling legislation, has decisions, regulations, everything, so that new commissioners, as they come in, can bring themselves up to speed. I think we've had this conversation, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, there's a lot of stuff. There's a steep learning curve. And one of the things that I think I can bring to this is that my involvement in the issues, I ran for sewer commission a couple years ago against Mr. Demko and lost. But the bottom line is, I think one of the things I can bring to this is that I have a very slight learning curve, and I can really hit the ground running.
What would be some of your, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What would be some of your strengths and weaknesses?
Well, we're not a homogeneous community. We're basically, a diverse community. You bring your strengths from being what they call the business a dirt guy. You know your dirt. You know when a contractor comes in, shows you a set of plans, you can look at that plan probably in no time flat and pick out if there's some kind of issue. Okay. With me, having done development for a number of years, I know how to look at a plan. I may not pick up something as quickly as you do, but it's not something that's foreign to me. I also know the interaction and of the requirements of the law, the procedural steps that have to be undertaken, and so I think that works in tandem, for example, with your experience, where you may not, you may be aware of stuff, but you may not, know the fine points of it. And so basically you sort of work in tandem, but in this situation it's the triumvirate basically of the three commissioners basically working together and using their strengths to balance, to give a balanced effort.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else, Ed?
No, I'm all set.
No? Gentlemen?
I'm done.
Tom, thank you very much.
Policy with the town council anyway.
Welcome, Kirk. Why don't you identify yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be on the commission,
Okay.
and then if you're going to run.
Okay. My name is Kirk Schiltz. Born here in Hingham, been here a long, long time. We really talk about three things about why I thought of assisting the Sewer Commission in this endeavor. And the first is, what is my experience here within the town as far as town government and that experience relative to the number of boards that I've been on? What is my expertise beyond that, because I do have something unique? And then, what is the vision I have for the Sewer Commission? Because I think that it is in a period of transition. There's certainly been some changes already, and likely some changes to come up. So the first, my first group here in Hingham was the Water Supply Committee. I'm still on the committee. I've been secretary throughout for 12 years. I wrote every set of minutes that the committee has done. It's an interesting committee, and it seems like we have 3 new members. It's going to be reconstituted. We have a lot going on, and with water at the forefront of a lot of what we talk about here in the town, and the unique connection between water supply and sewer removal, it's a circle. That understanding of that aspect of it has been very helpful. From there, I went on to the Board of Health, which I currently serve, about 10 years there. And obviously quite familiar with the not only the sewer, but also septic. Did the fog regulations for the joint Board of Health and the Sewer Commission. In addition to that, I was the Board of Health's representative for the Hingham Comprehensive Master Wastewater Committee. Served as secretary through that throughout. The only person that served the entire time. I actually was both the chair and the secretary for a while, so we had so many changes. Learned an awful lot about the process of water supply and also sewer and septic, that balance between the need for water and also the recharge. I've met with the DEP regarding sewer issues, septic issues, water issues, the Water Resources Commission. Represented the town a couple times in that regard. I have a nice working relationship with the Board of Health downstairs. What's unique with the Board of Health is they're experts in what they do. And so what our job, the 3 members of the Board of Health, is to give them guidance in the policies of how to sort of manage what they do, but not get involved in the minutia of everyday processes, because they're smart people. And so I see that as something that the Sewer Commission needs to work towards a little bit because of the changes they've gone through, where they had really a complete oversight of the department, and now with town involvement, it needs to kind of move a little bit beyond that. The second part, my expertise, I do a lot of writing. I write for a number of organizations. I'm on an international licensing, a board of licensing boards. I was on the state licensing board for 12 years for chiropractic. I'm a chiropractic physician. I'm currently on the international for all the countries, and I rewrote their bylaws. I've done a number of regulations, not only the Hingham regulations, I've done them for the state, I've done them for the Connector Authority. I write very well. It's one of my fortes. That's why I think I can be of assistance to the Sewer Commission, because from my perspective, one of the things that is a deficiency that needs to be moved forward is something that we identified in the Board of Health, and I specifically wrote a letter to the Sewer Commission regarding the policies that Matt MacGyver told me when I was on the Wastewater Management Committee. We need to do these things. That was back in like 2007. So Matt MacGyver and I, we put together the wastewater master management plan. We fired the contractor for that, CDM, and we wrote the end of it ourselves. Roger Fernandez and I, and Katie Lacey, we wrote Section 5, which was the recommended plan, and Matt MacGyver and I rewrote the last part, policy and implementation. And we never did it. And so that still needs to be done. I know the Sewer Commission has put together an outline. It's on the website. It needs to be done. And so I think I can help out because I can put those thoughts and concepts into writing. One other feature, being on the Board of Health and running my own business, I understand what it's like to deal with the public. And that they come with complaints, and I get that all day long, and concerns. And part of the job is just not to be an expert technically, but it's to be able to manage people and their concerns and their issues and get them to a point where they feel comfortable. And not always do you agree with them and the outcome is something they expected, but it's something at the end of the day, they knew it was a fair process, it was identified what it entails, and they leave saying, I was treated fairly, I know what the issues are, and I'm comfortable with the outcome. And I learned that in the Board of Health, and through also my business. That customer service is really important with the Sewer Commission. We don't have it in the Board of Health, but I do in my other job. And I guess the last thing, what I envision with the Sewer Commission, I think that at some point there needs to be a sort of a reorganization and looking at what it is that we do relative to water management in our town. We're in the process of looking at Aquarian. I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. What I do know is the town is going to have an educated set of information in order to render a judgment. And whatever that is, we're going to move forward. But if that judgment is that we think we could do a better job, cheaper, faster, all of that, then there's going to be a melding of water board, sewer board, and that process of putting people together, policies, organizations. I'm very good at that. I think I can help out. And that's why I thought that I'd assist, and I talked to a number of people about the process. And I think I can offer an awful lot to the sewer board. I start day one, I know all the issues, I know the people, not much of a learning curve, and so I think I can offer the town and a step up in this regard. And also the sewer commission, I know Ed, he knows my parents for a long, long time, and so
There you go.
I look forward to being yelled at by
You're on the
him.
Can we
spot
get
now,
a
eh?
note from his parents that says okay?
So, I'm here to help, and, I already have a couple of jobs here at the town, so whatever I can do to help.
Kirk, honestly, I've known you for 30 years. I didn't know you did all this. I knew some of it, but oh my God.
So my first question is, well,
And married 26 years. And I've done a couple weddings.
thank you very much for applying. And my first question is, do you have a twin?
I have two sisters.
Well, I say that to be funny is it's amazing the energy you have. I can see in the activity, and we appreciate you in this town. Believe me, I'm saying that because to me it would be a tall task to get involved in another board on a what we would call a full-time basis. That's why I'm asking you kiddingly if you have, but you're on the health board and the water study at this point.
The water supply committee.
Water supply,
which is we weren't meeting for a while, and we're just restarting that, and so that has been a little bit quiet. The wastewater management, that has concluded, but we haven't dissolved because the wastewater management plan has not been put forward. We gave it to the sewer commission, but it just sort of is still there, depending upon what we're going to do in South Hingham. And the Board of Health, that's a full time, and I'm here a lot on Thursdays.
I do admire your enthusiasm. I have a question. So recently there was a meeting that we had probably in May about Ship Street and Cottage Street. You may even have been here. I don't remember, but I thought you may have been. There was folks here that were under the impression that there was a bylaw, and if I'm incorrect, hopefully you'll correct me, regarding the health board weighing in on hookups. And it turned out, if I understood it correctly, that for some twist of paperwork, it never got to the right people in town. So is that something we should be looking at, whether either the town or the commission, or is that, I know you must have some thoughts on it.
Well, there are two policies, and one's a bylaw, and the other would be a process for expanding sewer. One is within the district, and that is what the bylaw covers. If we're going to broaden our perspective within the existing sewer districts, how do we go about that? And so the bylaw talks about how the advisory committee goes through and educates the town on the criteria from the various educational boards, the health board, the Selectmen for business, one of my proposals, planning board, on whether this is a good fit. Is this something we should be moving towards? Is there a reason we shouldn't be doing it? Is there a reason we should? And that bylaw had some provisions back in 1983 that were missing when it was looked at that, geez, it wasn't a full complement of boards weighing in. Sewer Commission was one of them. They're one of them. And so that was brought out at town meeting. The understanding was, and we knew about it, and actually I was chair of the Board of Health at the time, we were prepared to go to town meeting. We had done the needs assessment for Ship Street and Cottage Street, and we had it ready in a written format for town meeting if asked. We were not asked, but we had it available if we were to be a part of that process. In talking to the advisory committee and the members that were there, we're going to fix that. It just was a glitch. And at the time, we needed to solve a pressing problem with that particular neighborhood, and I supported what the town had done.
So maybe just a quick follow-up. Is it, in 1983 is a long time ago. And I graduated from college in 83, it's really a long time ago. So, but my question is that something, and I'm not trying to place blame anywhere for the last number of years, is that something we should revisit or look at fixing for the better interest of the people in the town? Because people that we spoke to at the meeting thought that that was, and I will rephrase it as a protection for them.
It's been talked about since that town meeting an awful lot. And my impression was this is part of the Sewer Commission's charge, to be able to put that together and have the input from the various town boards to have something that the town, for bylaw, is going to be workable. And again, it involves a large group of players. Right now, the Board of Health is out of that, and the Selectmen is out of that, and also the Sewer Commission is out of it. But remember what that's for. That is just for an educational process to inform town meeting the risk benefits, the pros, cons of doing this within the district. What we're also looking at, and there's something currently which is before us, is to expand the district, because we happen to have, before the Board of Health a couple of weeks ago, a subdivision that came in, and there's some question whether the end of the subdivision is in or out of the the sewer district. That is an enormous process, which we have no written policy on how to guide us, although I believe by looking at the statute we can easily figure out how to do this and identify the process, but it needs to be written down. And so I think that's one of the guidance elements that I could provide for the Sewer Commission, because I am an expert at regulatory understanding and statutory laws regarding that, and that is something, again, that needs to be done pronto, because that's before us now, that particular subdivision. And one of the things at the Board of Health, we actually voted 2 weeks ago to approve the subdivision conditional on the Sewer Commission identifying whether this is in or out of the jurisdiction. So we still don't know what the answer of that is. And so that needs to be mapped out, and I'm sure we'll get that, or the planning board will get that at some point. So there's a lot to be done. And I think, again, I can help in accomplishing that because of my literary skills. And I think that my personality is just icing on the cake.
We were going to talk to you about that.
Oh, by the way, pay the $100.
Can we leave now? Ed and Eric.
I think he's covered all the questions I would have.
I want to thank you for submitting a name, and we already know what unique qualities you will bring to the commission, I think.
Thank you, Ed.
You pretty much answered all my questions. Paul.
Go ahead. I actually do have one that you didn't cover. If you were appointed to the Sewer Commission, would it be your intent to remain on the Board of Health and serve two boards simultaneously?
I talked about this at length with Bruce Capman and also Randy Sylvester. And again, I view us, the three members on each, as being an advisory board that identifies from the expertise that we're provided on what we think is best for the town. And I don't see a conflict between the two, but I respect the fact that the Bruce Capman runs the health department and Randy Sylvester runs the sewer department. And there are these two advisory boards made up of elected citizens to guide them. And we have a mixed board. We have a number of people that have unique qualifications on the Board of Health, and we would on the Sewer Commission. And so, yeah, it would be my intention to do that. And again, I'm thinking down the road, and it's not going to be next year, maybe the year after, that there may be some opportunity to see some consolidation and greater efficiency of what we do here in town government. Because I see the water system, the sewer system, and that interconnection is screwed up in this town. And that needs to be brought together. And, I think I can I can provide an awful lot to bring that to fruition. But, I need to be, involved in the process.
You answered my question. Thank you very much.
We know that because a couple years ago we had somebody potentially on two boards, and that's not a problem. Two elected boards. We ran that up the flagpole. So, any other questions? No? Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. I was going to introduce myself to Eric, because we haven't met. I know everyone else. Eric. Nice to meet you. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, are we in a position where we might spend a few minutes talking, and I know, talking and perhaps selecting someone tonight? Are you gentlemen?
Review them?
Sure.
I'd wait till everybody else is.
I was going to say, why don't we start with you all, because that person's going to be sitting right next to you all, or in the middle, or...
Oh, yeah,
I mean, do you want to review them? Do you want to?
Yeah, I think I'd like to have a little time to review them and then come back in with a meeting.
Okay.
My other question is, Ted, I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll give you guys a moment.
Sorry about that. If Eric want to kind of discuss it, which I understand, I just want to make sure procedurally, if we don't vote on it tonight, what is our requirements to do it? I thought last time we had this discussion about not voting on the night of the interviews, that we were required to do something.
There's a time frame to fill the vacancy once it's adopted. I think Betty looked up those rules specifically.
30 days. The law requires that you would meet again in joint session to take a roll call vote if you did not vote tonight.
But you have to do it within 30 days of the notification, which was about a week and a half ago,
So we need to do it like by next week.
So you'll have to do it before your next meeting. You'll have to call another meeting if you don't do it tonight.
We have to do it within a week, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if we got the official resignation on the 28th.
29th?
I think you did.
28th, I think you did.
Okay, well, then we have to do it by the 28th of August, so we have to have it by next week.
You guys can't...
So let me just clarify this. Mike's official resignation, whatever the date that was, which we think is the 28th, 30 days.
30 days from the day it's noted, then the Board of Selectmen are notified.
Okay, so we have to do it within 30 days. Correct. Next week's meeting would be too late?
We don't have anything planned for next week yet. But if we had to, we could probably squeeze out an hour or half an hour, either.
Should be half an hour.
I mean, I don't think it would take more than a half an
Now,
hour.
are you two going to post a meeting then and talk about it? Because you have to do this in open session.
Right, we can do that. We can post a meeting and discuss it.
Are you guys going to be able to get a quorum? Because I thought Mr. Healy wasn't going to be here next week.
Are you gone all week?
I didn't plan on being here next week.
What do you have available?
Could we discuss it and come back to this tonight? Or do we have to?
This is right here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, do we have to do it right now, or could, like, I guess it has to be open.
Correct.
So we have, so we either have to call another meeting, or do it right now, or
Well,
if we have to do it, we have to call another meeting, Eddie and I.
Yeah.
He can listen to us.
And then we have to meet with these guys next week, which Mr. Healy won't be available. So
All the
we're kinda-
conversations have to be in public session.
Right. But I'm just saying, so we'd have to get a meeting, then we'd have to be here next week, and Mr. Healy won't be, so.
Correct.
Do you need
I
a
guess-
majority, or can you?
It has to be a majority.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess.
So it's
I guess
3.
we do it now.
No time like the present.
I guess so.
We'll have to do it then.
What is?
Let's do it now.
Okay. And Susan, we appreciate your, and everybody else kind of backed up a little bit, but what are your thoughts? We'll start with you all.
Well, I think that there are two good candidates, in my opinion, you know. Do you want the names? I think that Bob Higgins would be excellent, because he's been in the construction end of it, and that's, we got to work on the infrastructure of the maintenance and repair of the sewer system. I think he'd be an excellent candidate for the job as the commissioner.
What about his lack of policy experience?
Oh, we have policy that's being worked on now by town council, and he has a pretty good idea of what the policy is, I think, you know, because he was in construction, he was with Hartley, and he's pretty well, background is which we need. in the sewer department, you know?
Paul, you want to?
I've known Bob for years, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Operationally, I'm sure he's all of that. I don't think I was ready for Kirk Schultz tonight. I was very impressed with his comments, and I thought his look-down view on some of the issues going into the future were very impressive. I guess the only thing that holds me back on that aspect, I know I took a little bit of guff when I got elected selectman for not immediately resigning from the planning board. And I don't know about you on the school committee, but
Everybody was happy that I stayed on.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, but it's not insurmountable, and I frankly think that the kind of stuff that the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission work on together kind of overlap. That I think would bring a fantastic perspective, even if it was only for a short period of time. I mean, this is not an easy choice, but I don't think it's going to get any easier by delaying it either. So, it's
Bob Higgins, I think, brings a tremendous amount of construction experience, but you have that with Eric. And I think there needs to...
He is more so. I mean, bringing that main down Main Street into the sewer plant, that was a big project, you know. And a lot of environmental issues, too, are involved in that, the big tree problem.
I think he's great. I hope he would run, but I think now what you need, if Kirk does have the time, is to get your policies in line and get them, because both of you have a tremendous amount of experience in implementation, but now you have Randy and his crew that do that, where you all really are the board of directors, and you need somebody else to help you get the stuff on paper.
Well, that's being worked on by Susan Murphy and the town planner.
But you guys have to do that. You're the commission.
We're working with them on it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Go ahead.
So, I always appreciate when anybody applies for any position. So the three folks that applied, I was impressed of their interest in the job. They bring different things to the table. I think if it came down to it, there's two people that may be similar to Paul's thoughts, but I think I have my own opinion. I don't know if it's the same. Mr. Griffin Higgins, is very well qualified, and Kirk, as Paul said, he's just amazing. I think I'd like to have him on every board in town.
I think he can do that. Actually, I think he can.
But in saying that in a kidding manner, my only concern with him is he is involved with so much right now that I will tell you that I would never want to try to bottle that energy that he has. But I think in a sense of maybe fairness, or for lack of a better word, I would like to see other people participate in these committees. And I would think Mr. Higgins deserves a chance. That's kind of where I come down.
And I don't have a problem with that at all. Kirk doesn't know it yet, but the Water Supply Committee is going to be very busy very quickly. It was reconstituted for a purpose, and they are going to be kind of given their instructions. My concern with Bob Higgins, and I'm comfortable with him, is that we need to get these policies done. And even though town council advises, they don't do. You all do. And the planners also advise. But you've also got to step above it. You're not involved in the day-to-day management anymore. Too many cooks spoil whatever you're trying to make, even if it's sangria.
It's not broth.
Not sangria. Skip the broth.
Okay.
But I'm comfortable with Mr. Higgins, too.
I was just on bidding.
Yes.
The what?
Yes.
The AC.
The AC. Oh, we need it.
Are you guys in charge of the AC in the building?
Yeah, we want to know. Who's our HVAC?
Oh, sweaters, huh?
That way you don't have to get up.
There's also an awful lot of the partnership. between the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission in the fog regulations and the wonderful cooperation with Susan Rowe and Steve Dempsey. We moved forward with that just tremendous over the last year, and that's made a real difference in sewer.
I was the one that originally submitted that fog program.
You did?
Yes. I spoke to somebody who was in the construction industry, and I said, what is one of the main things that you're going to look out for? And he said, fats, oils, and grease, Eddie, and that's the fog program.
And now we're all educated in it, whether we want to be or not. Guys?
So I guess I would tend to agree with Paul, Mr. Gannon, with respect to Mr. Schultz there. He's very impressed, and I was very impressed with his qualifications and stuff, but it does sound a little bit like he might be stretching a little thin. I do think that Mr. Higgins, I think, he didn't talk much about policy, but I think he could probably work pretty well with working on policies and setting forth with policies. So I guess I would go with Mr. Higgins.
Ed?
Mr. Higgins.
Mr. Healy?
I've done this a few times, and I'm not going to be the one that sits with whoever you want to sit with. So if it's what you guys want to do, I know Bob Higgins pretty well, and I've always liked him, and I have a lot of respect for him. I think Kirk Schultz would do a hell of a job for you. But if you want Higgins, you got him. Good luck.
I already
Thank
said
you.
my vote.
And I do think we had 3 people that were eminently qualified, very different people. So,
Someone should make a motion.
okay.
It's roll call vote.
Want to make the motion?
Is it a motion, or are we just doing roll call?
No, it's a motion.
It's
You
gotta
do
be
a motion, and then it's a roll call vote on that motion.
So I move to appoint Robert Higgins to the vacant position on the Sewer Commission.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call then.
You have to say the term expiring?
For
To serve to the next town election.
to serve to the next town election, if I may just amend that.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, roll call then. Eric?
Do I say aye or Mr.
No, we say-
Aye.
Only if you want to.
Aye or nay?
Aye, okay.
Aye.
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 Done.
Okay. Thank you very much.
See you later, guys.
Not a successful appointment.
Yeah.
That was hard, actually.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Parking at the harbor. Ted?
Okay.
I'm going to ask our town's land use attorney, Susan Murphy, to join me. I'll just give you a brief overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to Susan. So, Irma, you've asked us to give you an overview of the parking issues at the harbor, and so what we've done is we've started with the bathing beach and moved down across the entire waterfront. What you see here in the chart is aptly titled a harbor parking chart. You have location in the first column, spaces, standard spaces, handicap spaces in the third column, trailer spaces in the fourth column, reserved spaces in the fifth column, and then the last column is a jurisdiction column talking to you about who has jurisdiction over each one. The bathing beach has 176 parking spaces. 5 of them are additional 5 handicapped, and the trustees of the bathing beach have jurisdiction over this. And I'm going to give you a broad overview, and Susan is here to give you any drill down or details you may want, and some other comments that she wants to add. The boat ramp area, there's 104 spaces, 5 additional handicapped, 32 trailer spaces, and these are for your boat trailers, so that you can pull them in and not unattach them. And the Board of Selectmen is the jurisdiction of the boat ramp, subject to agreement with the state. And we do have an agreement that limits certain things we can do without state approval. Iron Horse Park has 35 spaces, 2 handicapped and 3 reserved for the harbor master functions. The Board of Selectmen has jurisdiction over this area, and we also have a non-exclusive parking license with an entity in this area. Whitney Wharf, there are 5 parking spaces, and there's 1 handicap space. The Board of Selectmen control this parking area. Barnes Wharf, there are 29 parking spaces according to the approved site plan that Lincoln Maritime is currently working under. There are there's 2 handicap spaces, and again, the Board of Selectmen has jurisdiction of this, subject to the rights of the lessee. So in overview, we have 320 parking spaces on the harbor, 15 handicapped, 32 trailer spaces, 3 reserved spaces, and all of the property on the waterfront, save the trustees of the bathing beach, is controlled at some level by the Board of Selectmen. Of course, there are 3 private parcels on that, on this waterfront area, the Gallery 360, the marina, I believe it's called Harbor Dream, and then the 3 Otis Street, Bear Cove Marine, are all the 3 other private properties in that area.
Are you going to address...
Got to get a new clicker.
Yeah. Are you going to address why we can or can't charge for parking for non-residents?
What I said is I would give you the overview, so we know what we're talking about.
Okay.
This is a map of the area. And then here is something that we pulled up from a previous plan that we had. Again, we're referencing the formal mobile station on it, but you can see it's a little aged, but it's also a pretty good map to tell us what, so the people looking at home can see where we started the bathing beach, moved down through the boat ramp, mobile station, and all the way up Barnes Wharf and Steamboat Wharf. All I have for you. We have the overlay district, which starts to get a little complex, and you can see that we have several parcels in the overlay district. I believe there's 10 total. And then they talk about where they are and the size and scope of them, and what their purposes are for. I think that's it. So, I meant to give you a framework and an overview, but it was impossible for me to determine what specific questions you'd have about 10 properties on the waterfront. So we stand ready to answer your questions on what you can and can do about parking. We've had some citizen requests about parking, particularly on the boat ramp, and whether we could charge out-of-town residents more than we can charge
That's one of the things I wanted at least addressed openly.
And I think the answer to that, and Susan can be more detailed in the legalities of it, but the short answer is we cannot make any changes to that without the approval of the state that built that area with us jointly. So.
Hi, thank you for having me here. The staff had pulled together all the numbers. I have permits and agreements that are related to the parking on these various town-owned parcels. Whatever you think makes sense or is the most helpful for the board, we can walk through them property by property, or if there's only specific ones that you have questions about, we can focus in on those. So however...
I think Susan, it's more the public wants to be educated.
Okay.
And there have been questions over the last week about the impact of the kayaking and paddleboarding and those regulations.
Okay.
Can you perhaps address those?
Right. Do you want me to start with those, or maybe start with the bathing beach and work our way down the list?
Why don't you start with the bathing beach and we'll work our way around.
So the bathing beach is, as you know, subject to a trust. So it's also subject to Massachusetts trust law. And we have trustees that are appointed by town meeting.
All 3 of them are here tonight.
Right. And they have jurisdiction under the trust for the use and management of the property. They may issue regulations. They may raise money upon the premises that's within the trust, which is They can have events there. My understanding is that they don't charge for most of the charitable events. I believe from time to time, I don't know if it's every year, the farmers market has made payments to the trust. For example, I believe their payments paid for striping and that type of thing. But they have control over what happens there. Unlike other areas of town where town meeting might override, because it's a trust that's subject to Massachusetts trust law, town meeting can't override decisions of the bathing beach. It would have to be dealt with under Massachusetts trust law. So that's the jurisdiction of the bathing beach trustees. The farmers market, I believe, operates under an annual license, and they have a special permit issued from the planning board which is required for the operation of the farmers market. And the planning board permit that was last revised in 2012 made a finding that there was sufficient parking at the bathing beach for the limited hours that the farmers market operates every week. So that is the framework for use of the parking at the bathing beach. Does anyone have any questions about?
I'll open it to the audience, too, for anybody that wants to ask questions.
Can I ask a question? What's the reason for this? I don't think that's clear, like, why we're doing this. Like, why we're doing it? Is there what the questions or issues were that brought this?
A number of questions coming in and comments coming in from the citizens.
About parking in general?
Understanding who owns what parking and the effect of, like, the paddle boarding and kayaking was one, and then questions around the bathing beach parking.
So questions about charging, or just questions about if there's enough parking?
In general.
Okay.
And there was a number of pieces in the Hingham Journal as well.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Was it related to possibly the issue in the journal? Yeah. What triggered it to?
Yeah. Alan.
Just out of curiosity, Alan Pearl, one of the trustees of the bank. How many people?
Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, you're not going to get away.
If you don't speak into the mic, no one at home can hear you, because you have to be 12 inches from the microphones.
Alan Peralta, I'm one of the three trustees of the bathing beach. To follow up on the question that the Journal asked, I am curious as to the number of people who have asked this question. I've certainly read the two commentary letters to the Hingham Journal, but how many people have asked this question?
We've had 2 inquiries into the office about parking at the waterfront from 2 individuals, one who has a property on the waterfront and one who has an interest in the waterfront.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just make a...
Oh, sure.
I don't think the importance of the inquiry is necessarily driven by the amount of people that do this, and I think this is a good exercise for us to go through. I'm somewhat familiar with it because we routinely do this when I sat on the planning board and we had to deal with special permit A3s as it relates to parking. And I think it's good for the people in town to see and know what the constraints and the limitations of the waterfront are with respect to use as it relates to parking. So I don't see this as a negative. I think this is a positive thing for us to go through.
And that's kind of why I had it put on the agenda. Go ahead.
I fully agree with Mr. Healy's comment. And there is a response letter that's going to the Hingham Journal. And in it, at the end of it, very tactful, I request anyone who's interested in this subject to come to any of our meetings. The next meeting of the Bathing Beach Trustees is coming Tuesday. It's a joint meeting with the Harbor Development Committee, and we'll start at 6:30. Fully agree with you. If one citizen's interested, that's fine. But there is a public forum, and our committee has always been open to that.
I have no dispute with what you say, and I think that's an excellent idea.
And Alan, I don't think this was only the bathing beach, but that was kind of the biggest article. This was trying to get an understanding, because I had talked to one of the people. They didn't realize there were so many different rules for different pieces. So there will be a quiz for the citizenry after this.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Perhaps one of the trustees could speak to the issue of the parking. Will it change with any of that storm wall treatment that you guys are going to be putting in? Will it reduce the amount of parking spaces available, I guess is my question.
We have hired an engineer, Mr. Healy is correct, Polaris Engineering. We're working with Bills and Thomas, and they are confident that if we cut the parking lot back, that we can still have the same number of parking spaces. There's a real inefficiency. If you stand down at the bathing beach in the first line of parking spaces, behind that is about 30 feet before you get to the next line. It's just not big enough to have another line there. So we could lose 15 feet. Hopefully not lose, that's a bad term. We could actually cut back about 15 feet of the asphalt area to hopefully stabilize that area so we don't lose it and still have the same number of parking spaces. That's the intent.
Well, excuse me just a minute. So does that mean then that you'll shrink the aisle and all the parking spaces that are reconfigured will comply with the 9 by 20 dimension?
That's the intent, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
The harbor development, as part of the whole harbor project, did a drawing that showed that if we reclaimed 10 feet or thereabouts of sand, because if we don't do it, Mother Nature's going to claim it and we'll lose everything.
It's
And-
artificial anyhow.
Correct.
It is,
And if
right.
you redid the parking spaces the way they should be done, we don't lose a thing, and it's much more organized.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the next location on the list is the boat ramp parking lot. That entire parking lot is subject to a land management agreement that was entered into by the town in 2004 with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts acting through the Commissioner of the Department of Fish and Game. And under that agreement, and this was in connection with funding that the town received in order to improve the boat ramp, the public boat ramp. So under that agreement, the state defines the facilities not just as the boat ramp, but the boat ramp, parking, and associated appurtenances, although I'm not sure what other associated appurtenances are there other than the boat ramp and the parking, but that's how it's defined, and then that's a defined term of facilities. So then when you go through the agreement, which is only a page, there are specific provisions that deal with parking, and it says, Section 5, the municipality shall not use or permit to be used any parking spaces or open areas for purposes other than public access without the written permission of the board. And then it talks about the number of car and trailer spaces in a little bit more detail. And then with respect to the charge question, the next Section 6 says, the municipality may charge a reasonable fee for the use of the facilities, provided, however, that for any specific type of usage, so say using the boat ramp or using the parking, the same fee shall be charged to all citizens of the Commonwealth. And provided further, the fee schedules and method of collection shall have been approved in writing by the board. So that's what the
In that case,
provision.
are they referring to the Board of Selectmen or the State Board? I thought you had said to me it was a State Board. Has to approve any agreements.
Right. The fees can be approved by the board, but any of the regulations have to go through the state. So it's kind of both. I mean, the town would have to, the town would promulgate it, but they are subject to review by.
So you can charge for parking, but you cannot charge for parking different between residents of the Commonwealth. Just to be very clear on that.
So
That's a question we've been asked.
Yeah, it's the public act.
We
so
get asked that quite a bit.
Right. So it's the Board of Selectmen who promulgates, but it's the Public Access Board that has final approval. So there's two boards involved.
So another way to say it for this particular parking area, in exchange for money, we lost the ability to control who uses that parking lot. It has to be everybody.
Exclusive control.
Exclusive control. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Or if we charge,
Yes.
everybody pays.
Now, that being said, the new kayak paddleboard rental is in the area of the beach that, right, is to the left of the boat ramp. I guess if you're looking at the boat ramp, presumably people who are renting are parking there, but that's a public access. You're providing public access to the water through the kayak rentals. And so that is those are users of the harbor who, that would come under the public access umbrella.
Does the state dictate the number of standard spaces and trailer spaces? Or let me ask it a different way. Does the state dictate the number of trailer spaces?
Yes. So the current agreement states that the facilities shall include 33 car and trailer combinations on the site and an additional 10 off-site. And my understanding is that had agreed at some point to be potentially Station Street, but it's not spelled out where that additional site has to be.
Could you repeat that, please?
So the agreement says, as an asterisk at the end of Section 5, the facility shall include the adjacent parking for 33 car and trailer combinations, so trailer spaces, and an additional 10 similar spaces at an off-site location to be determined by the town and approved by the Public Access Board.
Bill or John? Both of you?
Bill Reardon, 9 Steamboat Lane, current chair of the Harbor Development Committee. Just to clarify both where we are now and maybe more importantly where we hope to go, this question of trailer spaces, which Susan has been very clear on, Ken Corson, who's been our principal correspondent back and forth with the state with respect to proposed funding for further improvements, significant improvements to the boat ramp, has made clear that the state has said, well, those other spaces which used to be at Station Street, once Station Street was drawn, if you will, it's just not possible to park trailers over there now. So he has shared with the Harbor Development Committee that the current spacing that's displayed here will have to change, and there will have to be more boat ramp spaces at this lot to conform, perhaps to, I don't know the exact 42? Numbers, but additional, certainly to make up for the 10 that we're missing. And since we are proposing to the state that they would, expend substantial funds, they could argue that they want even further spaces. And in answer to the question you asked earlier, I think absolutely. This was a case of, in the past, we agreed to certain things in exchange for receiving state funds. And to the extent that we're going to be asking for further state funds, and we are, we should expect there will be further requests of us. And we will be somewhat, constrained in terms of what we can do, although I think it's very clear we can't charge. It just has to be the same.
Okay. Well, is there any sense as to what the state would require beyond what's imposed presently? Are you able to predict with any certainty?
Come on up, John.
Good evening. John Thomas, Stoddard Road, and also Harbor Development Committee. I wish I could bring my 4 years on the committee right here all at once, but Ken is, as he has just said, is very involved with Jack Shepard, the Fish and Game Department, and as Ted knows, last October, Alan, Jack Shepard, and his chief engineer were nice enough to come down here and walk the harbor, look at the boat ramp, and said, it's definitely gone. We got to tear it out and replace it, and he very much wants to do it. They're more than willing to replace our boat ramp and repave and redo the whole parking lot, and at the same time reconfigure it to whatever count they want. This is under their control. I think Susan would agree to that. The other comment I would make is that our state legislature has just passed the environmental bill. It's been in the legislature for the last 18 months. And Hingham is slated for $4.3 million. And $3 million of that is designated to rebuild our seawalls, which are in terrible shape and falling apart. I would ask all three of you now if you saw the pictures that I turned in 3 weeks ago of the seawalls.
Oh, I've seen them before.
Okay.
I'm down there.
Yeah.
I know. Well, there's a couple of very dangerous places in those seawalls right now. And it wouldn't take much for somebody just walking on them for them to collapse. But long story short, as you know, myself and Alan, when he was committee chairman, we have asked you for money. We have asked to have Garrett Bradley and Mr. Hedlund come down and speak to us and do things for us. This woman who wrote these 2 articles in the Hingham Journal, excuse me, She's well-spoken. She has some good points, but she also missed an awful lot of good points. And what I think most people don't realize is just to turn a rock over on the seacoast, you're involved with the Seacoast Council, the state-level Fish and Game, the Army Corps of Engineers, and so on, in an RFP that takes 3 months to go out and be bid and come back, and she wants to know why it wasn't done yesterday, and it just doesn't happen that way. I've been on the committee 4 years. Excuse me. John Riley asked me at that time to join this committee, which I did, and I joined specifically to get the boat ramp rebuilt. It's been 4 years and 5 months. The boat ramp is exactly as it was 4 years ago. We have to be able to move better than this in this town and with our elected officials. So,
John, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Just two, actually. And you, if you can't answer it, that's fine. The state comes in, I know there's legislation, which is great. They've done a great job with that.
Right.
In terms of the trailer space, just so I understand the logic, there's a concern that they were already 10 down, it sounds like, from Station Street. What are they all needed, or do they? I'm trying to think why they would come up with
I would defer to the other fellows, but I think it's rare that we use all 32 trailer spaces on a given weekend. Right. I personally spent Saturday, a very nice hot Saturday this last weekend, on the little beach next to the boat ramp with my family of 16, 6 kayaks, a 19-foot powerboat, and a sailboat. And we were there for 4 hours, and a wedding going on at the gazebo. Now, the parking lot was mostly full, but there were still spaces, and I don't think there was 10 trailers in the parking lot. So really, do we exceed 32 trailers at any one time, I think. So that's, but if the state, if Jack Shepherd and the Fish and Game Department want to realign this configuration and give us 40 and take 10 away from the parking spaces, that's their...
That's my, I guess my ultimate question is, what is the, if it's not being used and they fund it or legislatively or otherwise, the new ramp, why do they feel the need? If you know...
Well, with a new ramp, but by the way, I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but a new ramp was designed and has gone through an order of conditions with our Conservation Commission back in 2008. Ken Corson, the Harbor Master, has a copy in his file, and the Conservation Commission does also, and I have copies. It was designed with a gangway that went down the side of the boat ramp and a T-dock at the end that would always be in deep water, which we don't have now. As everybody knows, at low tide, it's muck. Yep. But with this new ramp, the gangway will go down with a T-dock that'll always be in the deep water basin, which means more people will want to come and use it. More people can carry their kayaks down and put them in at low tide. And there'll be more use. If we can get this boat ramp rebuilt and the lot redesigned however they want to do it, I think our harbor will really pick up, along with the 10-year master plan that we're trying to do.
So, and my other quick question for you is as you may know, I'm new to the board. I'm very much interested in the waterfront. I don't know the details or the reasons why there may have been this 4-year period in terms of funding, but I would like to talk to you more about it and see what we can do, because
it's just as I said. I have to compliment Alan Perot and Ken Corson and now. Thank you for their expertise and their hard work over the most recent years. Try as they may, and try as we all have as a committee, it has been pulling teeth to get cooperation, and I don't mean that as a negative, but to get the necessary continuity and cooperation, as I mentioned, between the state boards, the Army Corps of Engineers, what Ken Corson has to go through to get money. Seacoast Council, we were close to that, getting money at one point. I know it fell apart when our illustrious Lieutenant Governor left office, and that left us kind of in the right for a while. And it's just one thing after another. And the best thing that's happened to us down there is the CPC came through with the funds to build Whitney Wharf, and that will be there by next summer, because we have the engineering going on right now. It's just we need people to push. I personally spoke to Gigi, Senator Hedlund's, Representative Bradley's representative the other day, and she was very cooperative. I gave her some information on just this very subject, and said I'd like to see things hopefully move now that we know this environmental bill is coming our way. And it's going to take our elected representatives to go after that and do their part to try to get it into the town of Hingham.
She's really good, because I talk to her not every week, but every other week about the Rotary and Summer Street and the seawall money.
Yep.
So she's a real digger.
We have a private citizen putting thousands of his own money into the rowing and sailing club and creating a master plan that is absolutely fabulous, that dovetails so well into our own 10-year master plan. If we can't make this work, shame on us. We have just got to get people to do their job. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on the geese. Cool. That's why we need to talk about the parking.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
John, I went to high school with Amy Wolf. She wrote that article. You know, I appreciate your frustration, but I think some good has come out of this because it's got a conversation going. It's focused people's attention on a very difficult and complex area of real estate. You know, I worked on the permitting issues over the last 2 decades, and sometimes change comes slower in some cases than others simply because of the different agencies that are involved in the permitting. I'll bet we could have built a new boat ramp a long time ago if we paid for it ourselves. You know, we're asking somebody else to pay for it, and we're trying to prioritize our needs over competing municipalities. So, you know, I think that it's an ongoing effort, and I really do appreciate the dedication of the Harbor Development Committee. I think we have done things there in recent years. There's been some zoning changes that are positive. I think that, you know, we have to deal with an arterial roadway that is an impediment towards a convenient access to the waterfront. And I've spent more than my share of time thinking about just exactly what we could do. So, you know, I think that rushing, or not rushing is not a good word, but to say that, you know, a conceptual plan that was presented by a proponent of the rowing serves as a template for what we should do there, that might be a little premature, to be candid with you, because I think it presumes that certain things are going to happen that we just don't know are. Plus, it requires zoning changes. I mean, there's a lot going on down there, John.
The highway requires zoning changes.
Yeah, there are other issues, but so.
I just wanted to temper enthusiasm about one comment. Bob's right. They did include that kind of money, $4.3 million for Hingham. But they included a lot more money for a lot of other communities, and all of that is bonded money. None of that is cash. And so, you know, the state regularly appropriates money, large amounts of money in bond bills, but then it later has to be released. And the releasing part is the real part to get it to us that we struggle with. And you know, our legislators, Garrett and Jamie Murphy and Senator Hedlund, you know, work hard to get it to us, but we're not the only one on the water. You know, there's towns to the south, towns to the north of us, and the state themselves are coming out of an economic crisis that they've lagged. And while they weren't able to pay for things like bridges and roads, you know, that's all coming out of that same pot of money. So I think, I don't want people to go away from this meeting thinking, oh, we got $4.3 million and all we have to do is wait for the state to hand it to us. It's not going to be that easy, and the bureaucratic process, I think, is separate. You talk about the agencies that we have to work with, and that itself is a challenge. But on top of that challenge, we also have to actually get them to release the money, and they have to have the finances to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Jed, and I agree with what you said. Just the fact that this is being said here tonight, and it's on TV, and the town of Hingham will see it, that's the kind of verbalization that I want out there, because it hasn't been out there in the past. Now, we hopefully have some very influential people in town of Hingham, some very well-off, influential people who know how to work with state legislatures in Boston. Some of them work for the legislature in Boston, and I am putting forth a request as a Hingham resident to have them do whatever they can do. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Want to keep going?
Yep. The next one is
running so
commonly
late.
referred to as the Iron Horse parking lot. As you know, that's also under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. There is a non-exclusive parking license that runs to the benefit of Bear Cove Properties for 19 spaces, but it's non-exclusive revocable license. So it's a first-come, first-served basis for persons who want to access their slips at that marina to use spaces in that lot. And that was a condition of, permitting condition in order for them, the owner, to operate the full marina. Otherwise, they would not be able to have the size marina that they have.
Now, that, where it's non-exclusive, so people eating at Stars could use those places, or eating at what I know is the old Mill Grill.
Right. Well, people who eat at Stars may park in that parking lot. The parking lot is technically parking that is devoted to Iron Horse Park. The permitting for Stars does not incorporate this parking. People may do that as a matter of practice, but it's not something that's been authorized by license or other permit.
But they do that, because we've done it.
I understand people may do that, but that's not part of the kind of framework of licenses, permits, et cetera, for that lot. If it needed to be enforced, the town could enforce it. As far as I know, the town has not felt the need, that found it necessary. So that is the Iron Horse Park. Whitney Wharf is a simple one. As you know, there are 6 parking spaces. They are just there for members of the public to park and enjoy the harbor in any way they wish, whether it's Whitney Wharf or just take a walk down at the harbor. So those are not otherwise committed in any particular use. Then we have Barnes Wharf, which, as you know, has the lease with Lincoln Maritime Center. That site does not have any striped parking because there is not a lot of pavement out there, but they do have a parking permit, in which they presented a plan that showed 29 parking spaces, some outside of the wharf along the rotary and some on the wharf, and they were approved on the basis of the ability to provide these 31 parking spaces on the wharf. And then that's subject to the special permit requirements.
Now, what about the private properties, their parking?
So the private party all have, so for example, I'll back up to 3 Otis Street. Their parking permit has, I believe, it's 8 spaces, although I didn't spend a lot of time on theirs because I thought we were going to focus on the public. They have the spaces in front, I believe, are required to serve the coffee shop, and then the parking for the marina is through the license agreement with the town. The 26 Summer Street Marina has all of their own parking on site, as does the Realtor office has all their own parking on site.
Okay. Do we have questions?
None.
None? I'm afraid to dig into this.
I just have one
Paul?
question.
Yeah.
This one. It's nothing about this. The other chart that you showed, I think Ted was showing something about an overlay.
It's an eye test.
Overlay district. I had no idea because I couldn't read what we were talking about.
Oh, okay. So there are 2. It might be helpful if you do the map that shows the public parcels and because the other chart's kind of small to read. Okay. So you'll see in green are all the town-owned parcels, and in blue are the privately owned parcels. At some point, a number of decades ago, the town changed the zoning so that every parcel of land owned under the control of any department of the town is zoned official and open space. So you have a harbor where you have all these parcels that are town-owned, and they're official and open space. But the 3 privately owned, which are all right next door, are zoned waterfront business districts with different rules, different dimensional requirements. So in order to try to start making sense out of uses and encouraging uses and interaction, there was a task force that was put together with representatives of different boards in the town and some staff people. And one of the recommendations that came out of the task force was to create a zoning overlay district, and it's called the Hingham Harbor Overlay District. And what it does is it rationalizes the 2 districts so that they can live together in a way that makes sense. So by doing an overlay district, you are able to modify certain aspects of the underlying districts, which would be official and open space and waterfront business, and have them dovetail together better. So this slide, these slides, like that's why Ted mentions an older slide. This slide and the one that shows the overlay district parcels, those are left over from a presentation when the overlay district zoning was adopted at town meeting, but they were handy because they were already created for tonight's purpose. But that's what the purpose was. And so, for example, allowing the parking license for 3 Otis was possible because we changed the zoning to allow parking on an abutting parcel, which was not formally allowed in waterfront business. So that's one of the things we allowed to happen through changing the zoning. A snack shack, if that ever happened down at the bathing beach, that's now permitted because we allow it in the overlay district. So there were certain goals that the task force identified, and then the zoning is hoping to create an avenue for them to happen in the future.
There's also an issue of height.
Right, the zoning gets into dimensional, et cetera, and I don't know if that answers your question, if there's any more detail.
Well, yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, the overlay district, as I remember it, was to encourage private business.
It did create some modifications in setbacks and types of uses and that type of thing in order to try to activate the harbor, and with the goal of getting more people to enjoy it or be able to enjoy it. So I have the bylaw here, and I can go into it in more detail. I just don't know if, how much detail you want tonight.
Not at this hour.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. We're good. We'll take our lead from Paul.
Okay.
We're good.
Well, I think this has been very helpful.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I noticed that the old gas station is still not rezoned. Yes? Yakiminis, it's still business? I think I saw it on the other slide.
You have to remember those slides.
It was before we purchased the mobile station.
Okay.
Go
But has
back
it been
to, well,
changed?
I think it may have been right after we purchased, but before, you can see that it still actually shows the mobile station because there's an old slide. Everything can get up, needs to be updated, and it's just something the staff didn't have time to do for tonight. But that can all get sorted out. It may have been, but I didn't check on that for tonight.
I know we had that issue at the country club at one point. We did a housekeeping article at a town meeting one year.
One thing, going back to parking, where we're trying to encourage people to walk the harbor, and the bridge, thank God, is going to get built. So you'll be able to park further down, let's say at the Gallery 300 or Gallery 360, and then be able to walk all the way. So how does that figure into parking? Let's say somebody wants to park down at Gallery 360 and go to Red Eye Roasters.
Well, Gallery 360 is private property, so we're assuming then that's okay with the owner. Okay. That if someone is there visiting Gallery 360 and then goes and gets a cup of coffee, and then, so when you're dealing with the private property, we'd have to kind of defer to what the private property owners will allow on their property. But, the parking the way zoning works is it intends for the parking to be in close proximity to the use. You know, and we see this whether it's the shipyard or shopping centers, or people will park one place in front of one store, but then if they are good and they're trying to get exercise and not drive to every store at Derby shops or wherever, they'll walk around, and that just happens. But right now, our zoning is not set up to allow long-distance parking from one to the other, but it could be something that, as a policy matter, if the town wished to modify it to allow cross-parking among all the parcels, it's something that could be considered with a zoning amendment.
It would strike me that we want people to walk the harbor and use the harbor, that if somebody wanted to park down at Gallery 360 and go and rent a kayak, we should be able to allow that.
Right.
In my mind.
Right. Again,
too simple-minded
assuming
here.
that the owner of Gallery 360 was amenable to that.
Or if the Gallery 360 owner would allow the owner of the Summer Street Marina to use some of his parking, or 3 Otis Street parking, why wouldn't we allow that?
Well, the way, it's a policy question for the town. I mean, right now, the zoning allows, with a permit, to park on an adjacent parcel. If you want to park 2 parcels down, that would require a zoning change. And because of the overlay district, it's something that the town could allow to happen within that district to facilitate parking arrangements, even if the town did not think it made sense in other areas of town. So that's a benefit of the overlay district.
Might be something we want to think about with the harbor, where we really do want to encourage people to walk from one corner to the other and use all of the different facilities down there.
This is just the overlap between the planning board and the master plan for the harbor development.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Carol.
I'm like totally confused. Can someone just summarize, because I'm not sure what this all means.
Why don't we do that after for you? And okay, Susan, can you?
Oh, sure. Like, go over what this all means. Like, it's kind of confusing. Well, I mean, people ask questions, but I'm not sure what.
Right.
Well, we examine what the parking is for each of the different sites, and we've identified the publicly owned properties with the parking that's attached to them.
And the restrictions.
Yes, and we've spoken about the 3 privately owned properties and enumerated some of the parking spaces there. We've talked about the overlay district, which has been used to kind of craft certain solutions to things that we'd like to see down there. And that's been passed previously. And that's kind of where we're...
Also explained why, also explained why we either charge everybody on the parcel by the boat ramp, either charge everybody for parking or no one, because we can't restrict it to free parking for citizens.
That was the only one that had any kind of stipulation about charging.
Well, I think that the bathing beach is under the control of the 3 trustees, and historically, I remember as a kid, you couldn't get in there without a sticker.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people do remember. There's a lot.
But there was somebody there at the end of the driveway checking stickers. So, I mean, that is a jurisdictional issue as to the trustees. I think. Am I wrong on that, Bill?
I think you're absolutely right on that. But I would just point out, because I think it in part it responds to the questions that were raised in the 2 articles over the last couple of weeks. I don't know whether there's as much of an understanding of kind of the economic trade-off that's gone on over time here. I mean, we're remembering a day when, you'd get, a young high school student to just verify whether a sticker is there or not. Right. For example, for the lot for the boat ramp, when you have the number of spaces there, the issue of having a paid attendant, there, all week or just on weekends or whatever, I mean, they begin to really impact the economics of is it worth it?
Right.
How much would you have to charge? And that is something that the Harbor Development Committee has talked about. Weymouth, I think, Alan does charge. I don't have a sense of how much bigger their parking is than ours, but I mean, you absolutely have to do the math in terms of determining whether it would be worthwhile or would you be paying someone more than you'd be receiving. So I think all of that has to be factored in. But I think to your question, I mean, I think it was just the exploration of, some questions were asked and a number of the answers, I think, have been discussed this evening.
I would just like to add that I know from the planning board experience that I don't think the boat ramp parking lot has been overburdened. It seems to have a parking capacity. Am I
No, I
correct
think it does,
there?
because I agree with John Thomas. It is, and Alan, it is not uncommon to go down there even on the busiest days, and there are parking spaces there. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the middle school turf field. Mary Power was nice enough to provide me information on the advisory committee meeting that occurred on August 12th. So this is the newest information, and we're really not going to discuss it tonight because there's nothing new to discuss. But let me share with you what took place at advisory. And it was televised. I've watched a good part of it on HCAM replay, so I encourage everybody else to do that as well. It was a very extensive, in-depth discussion. They gave it the time we actually can't give because it was several hours long and it ran late. They took 2 straw votes, and they focused mainly on the process because a turf field was not part of the original project's scope. The advisory committee is considered 2 things. It's a proxy for a town meeting. That's why there's 15 people, and it is supposed to be the breadth and depth of the citizens in this town. So as a proxy for town meeting, they discussed whether installing a turf field using contingency funds was in keeping with the spirit of what town meeting approved. And they focused on the difference between the legal authority and the intent. And by a straw vote of 10-2, the majority of the advisory committee recommended the school building committee seek town meeting approval prior to making a final decision. Then as the finance committee, which is the other main function of the advisory committee, the advisory committee expressed concern over making a decision and committing taxpayer dollars without a project design and firm cost estimate. And I think you heard all 3 of us say that in our own ways before. And as a result, by a straw vote of 10-1 with 1 abstention, the majority of the advisory committee recommended the school building committee consider developing a detailed project proposal prior to making a final decision, and then this proposal would also be available for consideration by town meeting. There's 2 meetings coming up that for those that are interested in this and want to participate in the conversation. Tomorrow night, the school committee is meeting to discuss it, and then on September 3rd, the school building committee is meeting to discuss and potentially take a vote or do something to continue the discussion of this. So this is a very open process. Everybody has a chance to say what they wish and to become involved in the conversation. So I certainly urge everybody to do that. Okay, that's what I have on turf fields.
Great.
Ted, legal and lunchroom expenses. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Sure.
Legal.
We decided to give you I guess we're going to start out with legal first, and we have some spreadsheets to show you here, presentation. Easier than
We don't have them?
I think we thought it would be better here to follow through on
Okay.
screen. Good. Let's see what we got. Do we not have the advance?
There's nothing easy about the harbor.
Is this legal townwide?
Well, that's what, can you define what we're looking at?
Sure, I will. I'll take you through all of it. Irma, you've asked that I present to you a little background on legal expenses over the last 10-year period, and so we've tried to do that here. What you're looking at here is a graphical representation of town's legal expenses for the last 10 years. Straight dollars, nominal, no adjustment for inflation, and you can see the spikes that occurred. I don't know if I have a pointer on this or not.
Hasn't seemed to work yet.
Turn the wrong button. Betty, is there a pointer?
I guess we better,
We vote for a new clicker.
yeah, or some new batteries.
Break down and...
So
Take up a collection
if
for
I did have a
batteries.
point here, I'd be pointing to the first peak you see right off 2008, and that escalation in legal expenses and most of the bills related to that period of time, along with the next peak, are Hersey House. And Hersey House was a 2 to 3 year litigation process. And what it doesn't include is it doesn't include the $500,000 that was spent in settlement costs, because settlement costs, of course, are not legal expenses. They're the byproduct of the legal process. So that is our 10-year history. Then we decided, okay, well, how does this stack up with the rest of what we're doing? And we did a 10-year moving average increase in expenses, and we looked at it in comparison to all the departments, all the large departments. So from the right, we have the school department that for the last 10 years has had an average increase of a little under 4%, right? Is that 4.5%?
1.5.
4.5%, sorry. Just about. Give it a little height here, it would be helpful to see that line there. The next one, the DPW, and again, for those of you who've served in some finance capacities here, and I know Irma, you have, you see the trend. The school's doing very well. The DPW, usually it's the least of our departments in terms of funding, and then we come back with fire and police, and they're consistently right in that range. And over the last 10 years, the 10-year average for legal services exceeds all the other major departments at over 5%. So then we looked at it over 5 years. And the reason we looked at this is when we started looking at the data, we saw these compelling things pop out at us. In the last 5 years, legal has experienced the smallest increase of all the departments over that period of time. Again, you're seeing the same consistency within school, DPW, fire, and police, but legal's dropping off there. And so,
Ted, on that, is that because of the spike was so high just prior to the 5 years?
well, we don't think so. We think that's because the legal budget changed dramatically, and how we approach legal changed dramatically about 5 years ago. And so when we look at our next chart, we brought out the use of legal funds for the past 10 years. And what we saw here is that, and what we're showing you here is a bar graph where we indicate the firms that we've used over time. And pretty much the firms that we're using now, John Coughlin is our general town counsel, Susan Murphy is our land use counsel, Kerry Ryan is our litigation counsel, Kevin Feely's our labor counsel. Murphy, Toomey, Hesse, and Lehane, which is the fifth dot there, represented all of those activities prior to 2011. Exclusively prior to 2007, but we brought Kerry Ryan in 2008 to begin doing litigation, specifically with Hersey House. And so what you can see is a different clustering of the expenses as we get towards the tail end of this. And I think this really talks about what happened with legal expenses in the last 5 years. The separation from one firm that does it all to finding specialists in each area that can hone in their services and focus on one area in general. We always did have, by the way, and this is a misnomer, I know everyone thinks Jim Toomey was our town council and that was it for 25 years. And he was our town council and he was our representative and he did a great job, but Jim didn't do all the legal work. He had a cadre of attorneys that were with him within his firm. And then on this chart, what we do is we show you...
Ted, I'm sorry, on the chart you just had,
go back down.
on the left, I just can't read the number, I apologize, it's me, the numbers. What is the highest number up there?
The peak legal expense, you're seeing the yellow line in 2009 is getting right to about $350,000 that we paid to Murphy, Toomey, Hesse, Lehane, in probably our last full, completely exclusive year with him, I think.
So we're paying more, but it's spread out over...
We're actually paying about the same. Off of our peak years, we're paying less. Off of our earlier years, we're paying about the same. Yes, we're spreading it around. We essentially decided, instead of going to one full-service firm and get all our expertise there, that we're going to break it up and we're going to go find, that expert in each of the fields that we need.
And the reason why I was saying I thought we were paying more is because I thought we were increasing a certain percentage, less over 5, but over 5% over the last 10 years.
Correct. And this last chart shows how we spend our legal dollars. Not surprisingly, land use represents almost 44% of it. Towns are landowners. I mean, that's our biggest responsibility. We own probably more land than anybody does in town. And so the uses regulating land use, whether it's our land or other private property, is a significant part of what we do. We have a whole second floor dedicated just to land use, essentially, in our permitting boards. The next biggest area we have is litigation. Over the last 3 years, this includes the tail end of the HRC House case, but it includes things like the litigation that we had to get involved with with Juan Penn Florentine, litigation, personnel litigation, etc. So,
Ted, and I'm just trying to punch in just a quick answers. So the reason why we split from one firm to get several individuals or firms was to get specialization?
Correct.
And when we did that, and how many years ago was that, 3 years ago?
We started the process about 6 years ago. Advisory came into the mix about 4 years ago, very strongly concerned about the direction we were going. Karen Johnson, the chair of advisory, penned a great letter that we used as a sort of a rallying cry to how we wanted to organize this, but that was when we were considering in-house counsel. Advisory was a little concerned about that. And so it was agreed upon among advisory and selectmen that the better approach to focusing on that would be this individualization that we had, and we have incorporated over the last 3-4 years.
Did we I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did we have some type of bid out there for these people?
We did. We went through a bid process. We did not, I don't think, bid for litigation. We did bid for land use a number of years ago. We weren't happy. It was before I was town administrator, and then the board, prior to my joining as town administrator, moved to Susan Murphy's firm. And I'm not sure
none of these, none of our...
That was a bid process.
None of...
Town council was a bid process.
But
Not really.
I'm confused by what you're telling me, though, because you said years ago, before you were involved, there was a bid, but not in the last few years.
I'm not sure if there was a bid to bring in Kellum and Kellum. Legal services are not required to be bid, of course.
No, I'm not just asking.
But
I don't believe there was a bid for Kellum and Kellum. There was an RFP put out for general town council services probably 4 to 5 years ago.
4 years ago, correct. It was as I was coming in. And then...
Do we have anybody at general town council?
Pardon me?
Yes, we do. John Coughlin is our general town council.
He's our general.
Correct. And so we went out to bid, I want to say 2010. I'm not sure the exact date.
For that position?
For general town council.
Not for the other position?
Correct. And at the time, we decided that we were going to stay with Murphy, Toomey, Hesse, Lehane. The board decided the year later that they were going to make another move. And we did not go out to bid. We solicited proposals from 3 firms that we felt comfortable, the board felt comfortable they wanted to meet with and talk to. Since they had just gone out to bid, I believe, the year before. And so that's the structure of our legal budget. Smallest portion, and I'd say that shout out goes out to the personnel board. General is at next to all, it's at about 18%. And personnel, which is usually not the smallest in most municipal budgets, is here. Again, great work on the board of the personnel and a personnel board to manage a lot of that aspects. And that's all I have for you on the legal services.
Now, what did that include? Oh, go back to the multiple bars. No, not that one. The one that shows the yellow ones. No, oh,
This
there.
one? Okay.
So where you begin showing color, the total we spent on legal would be stacking all those bars up.
Well, if you wanted to go back to the total you spent on legal, that'd be the first chart.
That's
I
right.
wanted to start out your baseline. This tells you what you spent every year in legal. It includes all your legal expenses outside of any special articles. So the water company acquisition study that has funding for legal activities is not included in here.
What about the enterprise fund, CPC, housing trust?
This is town expenses.
This
so
is
all of
Article
those would be
6.
Independent expenses.
So it's Article 6.
Correct. Yes, Article 6.
So this really isn't total legal expenses for the town.
This is, well, I would define the town as Article 6 in this regard. Those entities are separate entities that we account for differently.
But it's still legal money.
Correct.
Yeah. When I did the chart, it looked a little different. And this, I got a little bit sloppy at printing, but if we could, no, let's put it up. Because it shows the slope. Because my concern, and it has been ever since I was on advisory, is that our legal costs are going up significantly.
Well, I'm sorry, Irma, but this would argue against it. In actual hard dollars, look at the last 3 years. I mean, we just can't, these are undisputable points. These last 3 dots. I mean, there's actual checks we can show you that were cut. I mean, these are pure accounting records. So clearly, we are trending down the last 3 years. Sure, we had a very big peak year in 2011, and we had a very iconic case.
But the slope of the line in the graph that I've got is going up. And that's the...
I'm not prepared to talk about that.
That's coming right out of...
I see a graph and I see a line and it's going right to left, but I haven't... I can tell you that I got the data here from Sue Nickerson of the town accountant's office.
So did I. And so did I, and it came right out of our advisory books. So my concern is it's still going up. And we have all these other pockets of money for legal as well. And it's a concern.
Yeah, but a lot of it's driven on what the town encounters. And how do you control that?
Well,
if somebody submits an application for a 500-unit 40B project, are you going to get some ham and egger in there to do that, or are you going to?
How about just a 30 or 40 unit one on Main Street?
No, understood.
You got to be.
But is it time to think about a part-time in-house town council? Is it time to think? Is there a different way to do this to bring down the costs? Because our legal costs are going up.
Again, the data would say your legal costs are going down, Irma. They were $300,000 in 2012. They were under $300 in 2013, and they're moving towards $250 in 2014. I mean, we adopted a new philosophy 4 years ago, put it into place. It took about a year to take into place. And for 3 years, we're seeing great results. To me, I would say you want to go with what's working until it doesn't work. I can also say that the amount of litigation the town has encountered that has not been self-generated, i.e. sued, is substantially less the last 5 years than it was the previous 5 years.
And maybe just a quick comment is I'm not being critical. I'm saying is I think there's obviously different ways to look at everything, and I haven't looked at either. I appreciate what you did. I haven't seen your numbers. I know you have a graph, but I think Irma's point is probably about the overall legal costs in the town that aren't just Article 6. And Paul's point is, well, you can't predict that. There are things you're going to have to cover. But it's certainly worth a discussion. It does. I don't know where it goes, but maybe at some point if we could just combine the two.
I could easily incorporate the other aspects. I'm going to tell you they're de minimis.
Okay.
They're small areas that, the housing trust used a little legal. The sewer department used a little legal. The country club used a little legal. These are not substantial portions, but I was under the impression, I was asked by Chairman Lauder to give us this, and maybe I misinterpreted what she asked me. I will have for you in 2 weeks the legal expenses with those other small enterprises funds included, but you're going to see the same thing. The trends are clearly down.
Okay, I mean, I'm just trying to make sure you guys.
I'll send this to you, and then perhaps we can combine the graphs and.
Ted, I think you're going to do it anyway, but just over here. So, and the graph you're going to do is, I assume you'll do an Article 6 graph of some sort, and then plug in the other numbers to show a total, right? And we can see.
It's very easily done. I just didn't know that the board wanted to know. Again, those are very de minimis amounts.
Well, and just so it's clear, I specifically wasn't asking you to do anything, but I know there was discussion to talk about legal expenses. There's been a lot of things, what the costs are. I'm just making an observation and just hoping, we just get us what you can, and...
Sure, no doubt.
Everybody else may
like I said, it's very easy to do. Had I understood that, I would have given you that exact data, but I just don't want you to leave thinking, because you're missing a piece of information, that A, the information you're missing is de minimis. I want you to know that, and B, I don't think it's going to change your overall financial projections. The trend is down.
And then 2 questions. The per hour rate of the town councils, do you know that?
That's a trend that's definitely up. The town used to pay anywhere from 140 when I first got here in the mid-90s to, I think we peaked out at about 175. Betty, was that the last rate we had with Murphy, Toomey, Hesse, Lane?
I believe.
This was one of the biggest bones of contention that the advisory committee actually took up. None of our councils, actually Kevin Feely, I think, is at 175 an hour. All the other ones are north of 200. And land use, I think, is the highest at $275 an hour. But the comment made by the attorneys on the advisory committee were that, you get what you pay for. And sometimes paying a little bit more for a little expertise gets you what you need. Like I said, the trend is down. I will tell you that I think the trend is down because we have expert legal advice that's given to us, and we integrate that advice early in the process so we avoid departments from getting themselves, or committees or boards, getting themselves into legal trouble. Because that's the hard part to unbundle. Once you take an action that requires an applicant usually to take another action, and now we're in a litigation practice. So we've done a lot of proactive work the last 4 years with departments, providing access to counsel, a little more access than they've had in the past. But we think what that does is avoid them from getting into litigation. Let me give you a specific area. The last case that we had, which we depends on who you ask, we won and lost, were some cases about some waterfront area and some docks being put in. And one of the judgments came down that said, that, the town was kind of right, but they didn't write their decision correctly. And so we sent counsel in, both general and land use counsel, in to meet with the department to talk to them about how to write these decisions. I mean, the sad part about it is that the data was all there. It just wasn't collated correctly as it was presented in a brief that had to go into the court system. So, this is where we're bringing legal expertise to bear within the departments to help them do their jobs better. And I think that's why you're seeing some better legal results for the town. And more importantly, I think what people want is less unnecessary litigation.
I'd like to comment. When I got on the planning board, we were getting sued on a regular basis. But that changed. We got a land use attorney that became very skilled and effective at writing decisions that were very hard to overcome and overturn. And that land use attorney subsequently left the planning board and is now the real estate lawyer for the town. And I just know from my own experience as a lawyer that if you can front load your work and you can avoid a lawsuit, it's much cheaper for the client. It just typically is. I mean, you probably know that too.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, I've seen the work, I've seen the permits that have come out of the planning board and the ZBA. We haven't been successfully appealed or overturned in years. And I think that adds a lot of value. And in particular, just to kind of personalize it a little bit, the high school field project, turf. That thing had to be written very, very carefully on the planning board because we just didn't know from what angle things were going to get appealed. We wanted it fair, but we wanted it bulletproof, and it's built. Neighbors didn't appeal it. You guys didn't appeal.
When you say you guys?
Well, school.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, you guys. Who's the you guys? I don't know.
People watching at home probably say, what's he talking
School
about?
Yeah.
I mean, they were...
You mean those guys?
Well, whatever. Well, I'm just trying to say in a nice way that, we were trying to address it from all different directions.
understand.
And that took a lot of work. That was a very, I won't say contentious, but it was a very animated process that we went through. Yeah. And that took a lot of work, a lot of analysis. There were people on both sides of the issue that were unhappy, so we had to just deal with it. And I thought it came out. I thought it came out pretty well, notwithstanding the granite curbs that were permitted in the project and criticized here tonight.
Actually, I think they look good. Ted, I had also asked you about how much did we spend at town meeting?
I'm sorry, I put that together, but it was the last thing I did today, so it didn't get into your folders. I have it with me.
Well, that's all right. We're going to revisit this. Do we have a benchmark on the towns that we compare ourselves with? What percent is spent on legal versus the overall budget?
I don't. We've never done. I think we did performance measures on this a long time ago, but I don't recall what they were.
I wonder if the Collins Center has anything.
We could easily do an analysis, not easily, but we could do an analysis of the 20 towns, compare their budgets and their legal expenses, if that's what the board would like us to do.
Legal is a percent of the entire budget?
Well, I like to make sure we understand as part of a total workflow, because, pulling that down from 20 communities and understanding it is not something that we can just, pick up the phone and order a pencil. So.
Well, I wonder if the Collins Center has any of that. Now, you said we don't use the Collins Center?
We don't use the Collins Center.
What do we use? ICMA?
We went through performance measurements at length through the latter part of the first decade of 2005, 6, 7, 8. I think the final analysis was that the town was tired of performance measures. We looked at it from 16 different ways, and then we turned around and looked at it from another 16 different ways and flipped it upside down and did it again, and we kept coming up with the same thing. You're not going to spreadsheet your way out of a decision on how much money to give the school department each year. You're just not going to do that. Someone's going to have to step up and say, these are my priorities, and this is what I want to spend my money on. By and large, we're right in line with every other community on virtually everything we do. We're not that different. If you live in Wellesley and you call the police department, they show up. And you can send your kids to school, and the same thing happens here. So there's not a lot of differentiations, and that's what the results showed. What we got out of inclusion on the performance measurements was a tremendous amount of organizational work on the part of staff and committees understanding it. And I think at the end, the advisory said, enough. So we haven't taken it up in a while. The Collins Center does this. It's one of their profit centers, and we could certainly contact them and start doing performance management again if the board sets that as one of their goals.
Well, how much would that cost?
Pardon me?
How
much would that cost?
I don't know. Some of the towns
It's
are
actually
doing
not an expensive proposition in terms of money, dollars out to participate. A few thousand, more than a few, I think. But it's just the manpower hours. It's a substantial amount of work for all the departments involved. So got to make a choice. When we did performance measurements, we didn't do a lot of other things. That's what we told our departments we wanted them to really work on, besides their day-to-day jobs. So got to think that through.
Okay. Lunchroom.
You should have a spreadsheet in your folder. And I'd like to thank Betty for putting this together for us. So this is the first year for us, right, Betty?
This is the first year.
Operating it since September, so it's not completely a full fiscal year, but it's the full fiscal year that we had. As you know, the school department, after pretty much running this since we opened this building in 1998, have been losing several $1,000s a year on this. I think they peaked out at close to $10,000 when they said to us, we just can't run this anymore, and have a loss keep occurring within their department. What their numbers didn't include, which is what we did here at your request, Irma, is we included the health insurance and Medicare expenses, basically the employee benefit side of the equation. When I mentioned the losses of, I'd say $4,000 to $6,000 on average a year from the school department and their operations of it, and those aren't exact numbers, as I gave you a wide range, and I can get you them. But they did not include those numbers, and so we did. And what you'll see here is that we projected in 14 to lose $16,535.01. I don't know if that's an exact number yet. The books are in the process of being closed, but I'm sure it's pretty accurate to that number. And I can't imagine it's going to cost significantly less than this in the future. We've been doing a number of things to drive people in there. We've asked the employees, if you want it, please start using it more, because if it, the board has indicated that it's concerned about the cost, and the employees took note of that. So, we're seeing some uptick, but I don't think I could realistically tell you that this is ever going to operate at a profit. I think this is an employee benefit, and you got to determine whether or not you think it's worth the value to spend. A little bit more than employee benefit, because there are a number of groups in town that use it. I frequently go in there and see, when I walk by and I see a large activity at an odd hour, I always peek in to see what's going on. And the senior center sends up quite a consistent group of people, throughout the week. We have our manager, Doreen, here, and she can give you any more detail about the people who use it. I know our employees enjoy it quite a bit.
It doesn't look like lots of employees use this, and this is nothing, because we all love Doreen. This is nothing to do about Doreen. In fact, I'd like to see a full year, but my tendency would be leave the lunchroom, but hopefully find Doreen another job because this is expensive. And knowing that this money could be used somewhere else, for instance, the building department needs more people, and they drive revenue at a very high rate. I just don't know if we can afford something like this running at a loss, this kind of a loss. Because I know Doreen's done everything to try and do a little catering here and there, and it's very good when it gets used. But it's just it's not catching on. There's no other town that I can find that has this type of service. And business is moving away from it. There's very few businesses that have cafeteria type of, and I don't mean to be the big Grinch, but we're looking at saving money, and this is losing money.
Could I speak, Irma?
Sure, Doreen.
2 seconds.
Come on up and introduce yourself as lunchroom extraordinaire, which your food is very good.
Thank you. I'm Doreen Newcomb. I've had the pleasure of meeting you tonight, Paul Haley, and I have not met you before, Paul.
Really?
We walked upstairs together.
No, I've
really?
never met him. I know it looks bad on paper, Irma. I know it does. I think you're just a little bit premature.
Okay.
And the reason I say this, I've had what I consider a great summer. And I didn't do the rec center this year, and as you know, I always did the bag lunch program for the rec. I do have my senior work-off people working with me, and because they are there, I've been getting a lot more business from the Shrek Center. They've really picked up their sales with me. I'm trying to carry a few more items of interest to other people. It has been a slow week this week due to vacation, but if my figures only go to June. If you look for my July and my August sales, I've really been doing a lot better. And it's taken me a while personally to get my lay of the land, ordering the way I do now. I pretty much have my ordering down to the minimum, so I don't have waste or anything like that. I'm planning my menus accordingly, and I think if you could just wait just a little longer, you'll see that it's picking up even more.
Which I don't have a problem waiting longer. I'll defer to my colleagues, but we need to keep an eye on this, and we can't support negative.
It makes me nervous too, myself, and it's not my bill, so I can imagine how it makes you all feel. I don't have a day that goes by that someone doesn't come in and say, You don't know how lucky you are to have this here, or out-of-town people for meetings, department head meetings, whatever. Oh, great, you're back. You don't know how great it is to come in and be able to get a cup of coffee or anything to that extent. I know gratuity doesn't pay the bills, but the word's out there again. I'm getting a lot of new people.
Good. All right.
Senior center-wise, rec center, if you could just a little longer.
You don't have to convince me, ma'am.
You must have done a good sales job on him walking up the stairs.
Well, I think it's more than that. I like the idea that there's a community gathering place for the men and women that work in the town hall.
And nobody, don't misunderstand, nobody's saying we should get rid of that.
I have very small business, and, we bring chow in for our people every now and then, and yeah, we lose money doing it, but it's good for morale, and I'm kind of looking at it in that lens, and Noreen is suggesting that, as...
Doreen.
I'm sorry, Doreen. As time goes on, the momentum of what she's doing will pick up. Maybe she can have some of those folks that do the work off, bring it to go to some of the places that are a little more remote in the building or something. But I say let's keep it going.
I think we should keep it going for a little while longer. I'd like to see a full year.
I would like to see a full year, too. I think you're going to be very surprised.
July, August. Why don't we look at this again in October? Because it's over the holiday, or it's over the summer vacations.
Yes.
And if it doesn't pick up, then I don't think it ever will.
Right.
Let's let it go a little longer in the colder weather, only because I think people are more...
At the end of October.
Yeah, I guess I just have a sense that people are more willing to stay inside the building when it's colder, but...
In the winter time, I have a nice winter.
Yeah.
Especially with soups coming on.
She has great food.
Soups. Yeah, soups are good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
What do you think, Paul?
I hate to lose it. Of course, I need to learn a little more about it, and if I spend more time, in that area, I'd be in there having lunch, but I'm always on the go.
You work.
This is true, but I think it's a great thing to have, and I hate to lose it.
Thank you.
Sure, come on up and identify your, don't trip. Good grief.
As you know, I'm in this building a lot. I've been here since '96, before the building opened, when I opened the gym. We started the gym, and this thing opened. The two best things that happened at Town Hall. But she's the best morale booster you have in the town, I'm telling you. When she's on vacation, yes, when she's on vacation, this place becomes a morgue.
I'm crushed.
And I'm telling you, she knows the morale in this town. She's great.
He always tells it like it is, so good for you.
Well, I'll tell the truth, although it gets me a lot.
I know you.
But Ted and I get along well now.
Now, we always got along well, Bob.
Bob, I know you're in there, because I see you. Yeah.
Well, don't interfere with what she's doing to sell. It's okay.
I said, your cameraman and I don't cook much.
Well, thank you for putting this together, and why don't we plan to put a follow-up at the end of October? That'll give us 2 chilly months to take another look. Chili, no, and I bet Doreen will have some great chili.
She does make great chili.
Okay, so we have appointments, which we have a couple buried in here.
We do.
Yep, and Selectmen and Town Administrator reports. You want to do that, and then we'll go down the votes?
The appointments.
How do you, the warrant for the state primary. Ted, are you doing that? Who's doing that one?
Eileen had just sent up a copy of the warrant and asked that the board vote to decide the warrant for the state primary.
Okay. Do you want to go down? Yep.
So you'll make a motion to sign the warrant for the 2014 state primary?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'll move that we approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages liquor license to Sergio Pungatore for the Lady of Light picnic on Sunday, August 31, 2014, from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can you give us a little bit more information on the Housing Trust one? Somebody.
This one is the parcel that was mentioned at town meeting. The town meeting voted to accept the parcel for a unit of affordable housing. It's over on Derby Street. It was originally intended as a public safety parcel.
Whiting Street.
I'm sorry, Whiting Street. It was originally intended
Derby
as
Brook
a
condominiums.
public safety parcel, and there's no, it's transferred for $1. The only costs involved are the recording fees, the lawyer's fees, that sort of stuff.
Do we have an estimate on the amounts?
I do not.
And I know a big thank you to Tim White and the Housing Trust, but specifically to Tim White. He is doing so much work pro bono, learning how to get these units of housing that are standalone, getting them into the DHDC count, and which costs money, by the way, and finding the process, as we say, to get these things counted in our inventory. So I thank him a lot. And he's been working hard on this one and the Beale Street condo. So I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion, I guess, to authorize the Affordable Housing Trust to make expenditures for the acquisition of the property at 302 Whiting Street in accordance with Section 2, so it looks like subsection 17, or paragraph 17 of Article 39 of the Town of Hingham General Bylaws.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Who's Jean Roberts? Do you know her?
Yes.
Okay.
And she is friends with of the other ladies on the Cultural Council.
All right. I'll move to appoint Jean Roberts to the Cultural Council for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Shall I move to waive the building fees for electrical work at Foster School, 55 Downer Avenue, and Plymouth River School, 200 High Street?
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Selectmen and Town Administrator reports before.
And I've updated you on everything each of you.
Oh, nothing?
Nothing that I haven't already given you.
I have one thing. It was a memo we got. I went to the planning board meeting. I don't know. I forget now. Maybe a month or so ago. But there's an active interest to explore a potential zoning article for submission at next year's town meeting with respect to accessory units. And there's a memo here to Ted from Emily Wentworth requesting us to appoint members to a zoning working group. And it looks like a rather large group, but you know what? These are all departments that I think have a real strong interest in making sure that whatever we come up with can actually work for the betterment of the town. So I'd ask, lady and gentlemen, for you to support this effort.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a great idea. It is a big group.
It is big, but, you know, it's a big issue. So
Do you want to just read off who
Sure.
the members are going to be?
Yep. There'll be membership from one of the following boards or departments, and that would be Board of Selectmen, Zoning Board, Planning Board, Affordable Housing Trust, Community Planning, Building Department, Health Department, Zoning Department, Community Resident, so at-large member. Some of these are a little duplicative, but that's, so what? It's a party.
So do we need a motion to support that, or what?
I'd ask
It wasn't
for
on
one.
our vote list.
My conversation with Emily, she had suggested to me that community planning, building, health, and zoning would all be staff positions that
okay.
staff would support. So what they are really asking you to do is designate a member of the Board of Selectmen.
I thought we needed to vote to support the ad hoc committee.
You do. You need to create the committee, because that way the committee is going to require to postings,
Yeah.
minutes, and if you're going to go to town meeting with something, you're going to want that formalized process so that people, the public can see what transpires.
What they're asking you to do is create the committee, but also to put people on the committee.
Okay, I'll make a motion then.
Okay.
I'd move that we create a zoning working group composed of one member from the Board of Selectmen, one from the Zoning Board, one from the Planning Board, one from the Affordable Housing Trust, with the balance constituting staff from Community Planning, Building Department, Health Department, Zoning Department, and an at-large resident.
So it's a 5-member committee with 4 staff positions.
Okay.
And this would be for the purpose of considering a potential zoning amendment that would allow accessory residential units under certain conditions.
And just, who appoints the members? Is it each committee? Or?
I would think that each committee would designate whoever they want to go.
Okay.
I would.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
If the selectmen create the committee, the selectmen make the appointments. Usually what you
right.
do is when you ask a board, so you ask the planning board to give you a representative, and then you appoint that representative. That's the practice that we've had in
Okay,
town.
and then we can talk about which of the 3 of us.
I would like
One
to
of
do
you.
this.
But you need that accessory
In-law.
apartment. Yes. Is that a conflict of interest because you know the answer already?
No, I don't need one. No. You kidding me? You serious? Hardly.
Let's
funny.
create the committee.
right.
I'm not going there. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We can worry about who goes on it later.
Wow.
I just had a question, but I'll take that offline.
Okay.
What else? That's it?
That's all I have.
Oh, wow. I got a couple. Go ahead.
Well,
You
yeah.
go first.
Well, first of all, I wanted to, I wasn't able to watch the advisory meeting, to attend it at a family birthday, but I did watch it, and I think that's the first, I'm sure it wasn't their first, but it was the first advisory that I can recall watching on TV, and I was very impressed. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great in terms of the exposure that they had, and I want to commend Mary and the board for doing that, and I hope that this is a sign of things to come, that they will televise in terms of their meetings in the future. I think that would be great, and so I hope that's what the plan is, but obviously I want to commend them on doing that. And I just wanted to, since we have a larger audience, here, I wanted to congratulate Selectman Healy on his great job at the Selectmen's Regatta. That was a wonderful time. And
You're very gracious, thank you.
It was a
And
lot.
Paul Gannon won, by the way.
We don't want to have to get.
So the new kid on the block won.
But it was
Be all kinds of shots there
a
tonight.
lot of fun. It really was enjoyable.
Yes, and the only reason they won, they set up a meeting I had to go to in Boston, because I'm sure these two did it, so that I couldn't race next year.
There were only 2 boats.
You're professionals.
No, because we would have brought our boat over.
There you go. You would have swamped us.
I hope. Next year. I've got 3 things. CPC, scheduled for 2015 annual town meeting funds. It's creeping up on us because it's going to be fall before we know it. Preliminary applications are due September 5th, and the final applications are due October 9th. So that's like awfully quick. Go up to the website. Carol Costello has done a great job pulling together a manual from very disparate sources, but it's now a great tool. And all of the forms you have to fill out are there. And secondly, Deanna Costa, who we all know as Sadie Mae Cupcakes and Great Cookies, big, huge cookies, was named on August 3rd. She was named Startup of the Year from the SBA and the Hispanic American Chamber of Commerce in Boston, and it was a big deal at Fenway Park. And we all know her husband is Ted Joyce on advisory. But they do make great stuff at Sadie Mae's. And lastly, we've taken one step closer to a memorial for Seaman Herbert Foss. And I have to read this so I don't mess it up. House Bill 4232, an act providing for the preservation of a memorial to landing ship tanks in the town of Hingham, sponsored by Garrett Bradley and Bob Hedlund. It was signed by the governor on August 8th, And Section 4 of that particular House bill reads as follows. Massachusetts Department of Transportation shall dedicate the intermodal center located at the Hingham Shipyard in honor of Congressional Medal of Honor recipient Herbert L. Foss. The department shall erect and maintain suitable markers bearing that designation in compliance with the department regulations. It is under construction now, so drive through the shipyard. It is scheduled to be finished in November of 2015, which November is Seaman Foss's birthday, so hopefully that is all going to come together. And a nice little addition to the shipyard.
You know, I was surprised but pleased to see that coming across our airwaves. I've spoken to certain members of the Foss Committee and liaisons to the Advisory Committee, and we all see it as a positive development. So, thank you, Senator Hedlund, and thank you, Representative Bradley.
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you as well. I think that's it's a great piece of legislation and well-deserved.
And I can't wait to see it, because this is much bigger than anything we could have done in town, and will be seen by many, many people. Okay, anything else? Okay, I recommend the board enter executive session for the purpose of discussing 1, collective bargaining, and 2, real estate negotiations with Boston Golf and Hingham Mutual, because discussion of these matters in open session could be detrimental to the negotiating position of the town. The board will not resume open session this evening. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Good night, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.